from present in the past. Every week will be an animated bash. What a cartoon! What a cartoon! Maybe a short but mostly shows. We'll talk, we'll analyze, exploring as we go. What a cartoon! What a cartoon! What a cartoon! What a cartoon!
Hello, everybody, and welcome to What a Cartoon, where we feast on jerky balls. I'm your host, sexy dumpster teen Bob Mackey, and this is an audio exploration of every cartoon ever. Who is here with me today?
It's a Jeff Foxworthy Redneck Snowflake Day, and I'm Henry Gilbert.
And who do we have on the line?
Nina Matsumoto here, and cripes! Why is everyone so cripes darn cheerful?
And today's episode is the Clone High episode, Snowflake Day, a very special holiday episode.
It's the most lucrative time of the year.
So partially due to popular demand, we are finally doing Clone High. I think a lot of people have asked for it over the past 9 months of this podcast.
Finally.
Including our guests, who forced me to watch it.
When you first started doing What a Cartoon, Clone High was the first cartoon I thought of. And actually, I briefly considered the Patreon reward tier, where a listener gets to pick a cartoon. But hey, I got this for free, suckers.
Oh, man. God. Well, we'll invoice you after this podcast. But since we're talking about it, Nina, you are in Canada and you are Canadian. When did you see this podcast? I want to know about all of our personal histories because mine is fairly new.
So Canada pretty much adopted Clone High because your country rejected it. We embraced it with our peanut arms.
It was too blasphemous.
Our maple syrup-coated peanut arms.
It was so blasphemous.
Yes. No, but there's something too blasphemous for Canada. And now it's mostly remembered by Canadians around our age, I think. I've had to show this to many of my American friends. I've bought the DVD set twice, both as a gift for American friends of mine who had never seen it. I never bought it for myself, and now it's like $90 on Amazon and eBay. Because it's so out of print.
Yeah, that was shocking to see.
I should tell people before we start that you can buy all of this in America digitally on Amazon for $9, and it's totally worth it. 13 episodes, and they look very good.
Mm-hmm. But only for American customers.
That's right.
I can't get it because I don't have a credit card assigned to an American address or something like that.
That is bonkers.
I know. It's not fair. We are the ones that took Clone High in. In fact, the DVD was released by Teletoon.
I thought through socialism they would just give it to you.
Yeah, so I mentioned Teletoon, which was the Canadian Cartoon Network, and they had a segment called Teletoon Detour, which is all the quote-unquote adult tunes they played at night. And that's where I would watch lesser appreciated shows like Cyber 6, The Oblongs, Untalkative Bunny, but mostly Clone High and Undergrads because they were played back-to-back every night.
Undergrads is really lifted up by... Undergrads is a fine show, but...
No, it's not.
It's fine.
I think it's okay, but I did mostly watch it because it was kind of doubled with Clone High.
I like Downtowners a little more than Undergrads.
Yeah, I mean, Undergrads, we might do it because I did watch it all when it was on TV, but I watched every cartoon, so...
that geek... if only there were more stories about geeky guys pining after girls.
Yeah.
That
it was
every
very
one of those
kind of,
fucking shows, including Clone High, man. It's...
So now that I think about it, Undergrads was very like early 2000s webcomic.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, that's why I don't like it.
Yes.
But I will correct you, Henry. This show is about a geeky girl pining after a guy, not the other way around.
You are right.
The girls just land in Abe's lap. He has to pine over nobody.
Would you call Joan geeky?
She was geeky until she got boobs over the summer. Has gone to eat.
That is true. That was part of the lore.
Well, my history with the show is I did watch it despite MTV's best efforts to not let me watch that show because in 2002 to 2003, I had nothing but free time and was happy to watch any animated programming that cable would give to me. So I watched all of them at the weird times they played it just because I watched MTV all the time as I was supposed to at the age of 19. And so I saw all the episodes, but I didn't tape them off TV either. So I was into it when it aired, but I never really could watch reruns of it or anything. And then I believe 3 years later, at the boom of DVD TV on DVD, that is when the Canadian release came out, and that's when I signed up for an Amazon Canada account and purchased my copy of that DVD.
You broke the law.
Have you used that account since?
No, I have not. No, that was the one purchase. I should be buying some ketchup chips on there right now, but
those have got to be here by now.
That'll ship to you.
Well, the DVD did, and so that's when I rewatched it and discovered again, like, oh, this show was the best show. This was so fucking
really
funny.
Good. Don't you love the unskippable ads at the beginning of the DVD though?
Oh, so good. I made me want to tune into Teletoon all day long.
If only I could. Well, as for me, I think I had a chip on my shoulder about this series because I liked MTV's animated stuff in the 90s, but
chip?
It was a real ketchup chip, and I ate it. It was delicious. But yeah, I had a real chip on my shoulder about this series because the animated efforts from MTV in the early 2000s were not that great. Like, I loved all the 90s stuff, but stuff like 3 South and Undergrads and other things like that made me not really care. And then at this time, Adult Swim on Cartoon Network was out. So I was like, oh, they're just doing a dumb Adult Swim ripoff. I don't really care about this. And also, the two creators, they said some stuff about the animation that I thought was kind of snotty. So I was like, I will not support this show. They are not giving the animators their due diligence and respect. So I didn't want to see the series. And then everyone was screaming about it for about a decade. And then recently Nina forced me to watch half of it. And I really liked it. And I was surprised by not just the writing, but how good the show looks and how like just great the animation is. And it reminds me of stuff I really love because the people that made it made a lot of stuff that I love and all of you have to love out there too.
I made you start with this episode too.
That is true.
Well, I didn't make you start. I didn't think you'd watch so many of the episodes, but I was like, I want to watch Snowflake Day because it's a winter time, and this is like my only winter tradition, pretty much. Like Snowflake Day, this episode that we're talking about, it's my favorite winter holiday special of all time.
Oh,
wow.
And I'm sure many people have at least one thing they watch around this time of year, and for me, it's Snowflake Day. Before that, I had nothing. I mean, there are tons of holiday specials I've never seen or have only seen once. Like, for example, Charlie Brown Christmas, I've only seen it once. The Grinch Who Stole Christmas, I've only seen it once. It was at school.
Wow.
And I've seen the live action movie 40 times.
Oh.
No, just kidding. I've never seen it.
Boy.
It's a joke. I've never seen It's a Wonderful Life or Miracle on 34th Street or all that stuff.
My goodness.
But for some reason, I gravitate towards this one. I'm not sure why. Maybe because I had a completely non-religious upbringing and I like in-universe made-up holidays and events. Even though I'm a big Seinfeld fan, I don't have an affinity towards Festivus. Maybe it's because Snowflake Day never became a meme.
Festivus became too much of a meme, I think.
People started actually doing it, too.
But you're not supposed
and
to.
I'd rather this not become a meme. I think it's better this way.
If this series were more popular, it might have become a meme. People would have served lamb tacos and jerky balls.
Maybe
and
if
done
it was
the
more
satchel
popular in the
exchange.
States.
Yeah, that too. But yeah, like this is not my favorite episode of the series, but it's also a really, really good episode.
Every episode
there
is
for me.
so good.
The first one I don't like very much, but
Oh, come on.
I don't think it's a great pilot.
I'm not a big fan of the pilot either. I don't think it sets a tone well enough for the rest of the show.
Yeah, I think they figured out a lot more after the first episode. The second one is just like where the series should be forever, and then it keeps getting better. But the first one, I guess let's talk about the history of the show.
That speech about underage drinking in the first episode.
It's not terrible, but again, we should just talk about
moments.
Yeah. So the history of the show.
Yes. Okay. So the show begins with the show's creators, and I'm not talking about Bill Lawrence because honestly, he just kind of stapled his name to it. No offense, Bill Lawrence. I'll give him credit later.
He helped 2 new people run a show, right?
He did, yes. But the real stars are Phil Lord and Chris Miller, who are now 2 of the biggest names in animation, at least from an American standpoint, around. And they got their start at the Ivy League School of Dartmouth. So instead of the Harvard guys we have Dartmouth guys.
Doesn't make any sense. Okay, fine. I'm with you so far.
And so Lord and Miller didn't grow up together, but one grew up in Miami, the other in Philadelphia, and they came together at Dartmouth, and they both found they had an interest in not just screenwriting, but also animation. And they took animation classes at Dartmouth, which in an interview I watched with Miller, he jokes about how that they did an 11-minute short and they did everything that CalArts would tell you not to do because they had one professor in Dartmouth's animation program who was an independent Bill Plimpton style animator who taught them everything different from the traditional way of learning animation in the American style. But they were starting to make a name for themselves as funny guys who did funny animation. And so that led to them even getting a news story about them in their senior year about how good they were in the Dartmouth newspaper. That somehow got to Michael Eisner's desk.
Oh my God.
And Michael Eisner said, I want to meet with these guys. And but he only wanted to meet with Chris Miller. And Chris Miller, being a cool dude, said, my writing partner's Phil Lord, and you got to take us together. And so they get a Walt Disney television animation development deal for 2 years where they try to create a series that they don't even make. They don't get to make one show, but they're just pitching it.
They still get paid, don't they?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They get paid pretty well. So they fly out to LA. They're trying to pitch shows. They do have a pitch with Disney that they also take to Fox for a story of a bunch of clones of famous people going to university together.
And I assume this was in the late 90s where after Dolly the sheep was cloned, who was sort of a character on the series, everyone was talking about cloning.
Everyone was talking cloning then. And they just loved the idea, even from college, of the idea of like, what if all these historical figures went to school together? Wouldn't that be funny? And it would also just let them do a bunch of like parodies of hoary old tropes in college, in high school dramas and comedies. And they took it to Fox. They made a pilot, and Fox said, no, we don't want that. But then a whole year later, Bill Lawrence, who at the time was the showrunner and executive producer and co-creator of Spin City, the Michael J. Fox show, he thought the animation was great, and he wanted to produce this show and took it to MTV. And MTV really wanted to make it, though Disney also said, we kind of own this. And so they have to make a deal with MTV to do the show, but they also get financing from Teletoon in Canada, which then makes this a Nelvana Teletoon Touchstone MTV co-production. Like, 4 people own this fucking show.
And that's why it's so hard to make more episodes or a movie like they want.
Yes,
all the legal rights, or they're just all over the place.
It's bonkers how many people worked on this and how nobody... It's all that work for a show that then MTV didn't jack shit with. Like, it's shocking. But yeah, Bill Lawrence... I listened to him on Mark Maron's WTF, and he talked about his approach to Clone High was one that he had learned from Spin City, which was a senior dude co-created this show with him who had been working in the TV industry for a long time. And then he basically was like, well, I'm always going to be executive producer on this, but this 9-to-5 job is yours. I'm just heading home. And that's kind of what Bill Lawrence also did. He shepherded in the show, but it was Lord and Miller's show, their first show, which they had never show-run a show before or really produced any television. They'd written a couple scripts for garbage TV shows for Disney, but that's kind of it. And so, as they would say later, they learned a ton about filmmaking, editing, writing, all that stuff just on this. So when you think about how new Lord and Miller were and just how good this show is right from the start, that is a real credit to their talent for sure. And
have you seen Spin City, by the way?
I remember watching episodes. It was funny. It was sexy and fun.
It was inoffensive. I like Michael J. Fox.
I don't think I saw any of it. But that makes sense, though. So that's why, like, Michael J. Fox has a little cameo in the first episode.
Yes, yeah.
You're right.
There's a lot of celebrities in here, thanks to Bill Lawrence, and I think that's his biggest touch on the show.
Mostly from Scrubs.
Yeah. Well, so. Okay, what do you people feel about Scrubs in here? I actually really loved Scrubs and watched every single episode.
Really,
I've never seen any of it.
It's really up its own ass.
It is, Bob.
It's like,
I know.
we're funny, but we're important.
Yes, we're funny, but we are also going to play How to Save a Life.
That was them?
Yep.
Okay, wow.
And you get to see John C. McGinley feel so much pain, and he's like, oh, I'm so sad.
And how so many people aren't Superman.
Yes, yeah. I know. And it gave us so much Zach Braff. Honestly, far too much Zach Braff.
If I like Clone High, will I like Scrubs?
I don't think it's really related. I mean,
okay.
You shouldn't waste time figuring that out.
But yes, a majority of the cast is from Scrubs, including Donald Faison, Kristen Miller, Donald Faison, who's Toots, Kristen Miller, who's Cleo, Zach Braff, and John C. McGinley is Creepy Trucker.
Okay.
And also Nicole Sullivan and Michael McDonald were multiple time guests on Scrubs at the time. So
and they were also Mad TV.
Yes, yeah.
Playing a lot of characters. Yeah, they're so great on this show, and I wish they would do more voice acting, especially Michael McDonald. I didn't know that was him as Gandhi, and he's so good.
He's so good. I just knew him as the dumb characters he was on Mad TV. I did think he was funny on Mad TV when somebody would show me sketches of him playing that. Was it Stewart?
Yeah,
Stewart.
He was like, no.
I was a big fan of Nicole Sullivan, so I think she's great in this. I'm sure she would do more voice acting.
She's great in general. She is underrated. I feel like she got fucked over by getting the Mad TV stink on her. But her episodes on Scrubs are very funny too.
I read that the Clone High writers would hang out in the empty hospital that Scrubs used for filming.
Yes, yeah. Which is how they're like, well, you guys are right here. You want to just, do this voice? We need. Donald Faison basically plays every African American on the show, which that's good.
That's authenticity.
Yes.
Yeah, he does a good job too.
I love Toots.
Yeah,
Toots is great. He's basically like a better Bleeding Gums Murphy.
Yeah, the magical black man.
I may be blind.
Yeah, and he's also a vehicle for a lot of Mr. Magoo style jokes.
But good Mr. Magoo style jokes.
It's funny that everyone else's parents sort of get buried because Toots is the funniest one. Like everyone has interesting, funny parents, but they really focus more on Toots.
Oh, and another on the writing staff, they wanted to cultivate a really good writing staff, though most of them have just gone on to just work more with Lord and Miller. Like Lord and Miller work with a ton of the same people over and over again. But what I really wanted to shout out to is Erica Rivanoja, who she is now a major time screenwriter. She writes for a ton of shows, but her biggest hit was Girls Trip, the Gabrielle Union film that just made a ton of money.
Okay.
And she got her start on this show, and she was also one of the lead writers on Last Man on Earth, which I did want to shout out to here because this show is the beginning of the creative partnership of Will Forte with Phil Lord and Chris Miller.
I was going to say that, so I don't like the pilot of this show very much, and it got a lot better, immediately. Mm-hmm. I think the pilot for Last Man on Earth is one of the best pilots, if not the best pilots. It's just a fun movie with almost no dialogue until the very end. It's just what are they going to do in this entire hour? And it's so good.
Last Man on Earth is such a great show. The problem was, though, it had such an ambitious first season, an amazingly ambitious first season. And season 2 was them trying to be we took Will Forte's character too far into unlikableness. We really got to level this out again. And I think they overcompensated, though it's still hilarious. I
wanted him to remain a jerk, honestly.
He needs to be a skunk the whole time, I think, too. But
they introduced too many characters, too.
Yeah.
Nothing is better.
Betraying the show's title.
Nothing is better than when Will Forte is a screaming coward.
Yes.
He's so great.
His screaming is always, he's so great screaming in this episode so many times. I also love him on Tim and Eric. Awesome show, great job.
Oh, yeah.
When he is the screaming mattress salesman.
And
I was going to ask you about that because this show was my introduction to Will Forte. I didn't know who he was before this because I'd never seen Tim and Eric's show. And after this, I've been a big fan. I've loved everything else he's been in. MacGruber is great. And of course, Last Man on Earth. And he also has a cameo in Lego Movie. One line as Abe Lincoln.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Was when Abe Lincoln appeared on screen in Lego Movie, my immediate thought was that better be Will Forte. And it was. And, this was my introduction to Will Forte.
You didn't see him on SNL before this?
Oh, was he on? I always think of him getting on SNL after this.
Is from.
Yeah. No, I guess maybe I didn't know him as being on SNL. I knew him first from this, and then when I saw him on SNL, I was like, oh, it's the guy from Clone High. That's cool. And technically, I guess I knew him because I did watch the Jay Moore Show Action, which he was a writer on, but I didn't know that at the time. But yeah, Will Forte just screaming. And I also just love that Will Forte is a weirdo who could, I don't know, he could make movies, but he wanted to make Last Man on Earth. And he made that show work with all of his funny friends. And then Lord and Miller executive produced his show and made it happen. Like, that's what I also really love about them.
He started on SNL in 2002.
Oh, okay.
So just like right before Clone High started.
Wow, yeah.
Oh, wow.
What a year for Will Forte, man. And yeah, so... Well, also, and then there's the animation style, which I am leaning on Bob more on this one, on the history.
Right. So I didn't expect the show to look this good because it looks like a lot of shows from this era. And it was sort of the tail end of an era, which I will call the UPA revival. And UPA was a sort of post like 40s animation style that was much cheaper than classic animation like Disney cartoons and Bugs Bunny cartoons, where things were very abstract and cubist and impressionistic, a lot of very flat characters. And we saw things like that in like Ladder, Ren and Stimpy and Dexter's Lab and Powerpuff Girls. It's just this chain of events that where cartoons were influencing cartoons. And I think part of the reason I didn't watch this cartoon was it looks like every cartoon. But now I go back and I realize every cartoon wanted to go for that style. Few actually did it right. And this is one of the ones that did it right, actually.
The UPA style is so interesting to me because it's like the sharpness. It's not just, it's the backgrounds are so simple, which this show does great, but also just the sharpness of every character, almost every character design. And if they have curves, then those curves mean something too.
Yeah, it's just very well-defined silhouettes. And one thing I really like about the show is the character design. The characters are just funny to look at. They are just funny designs, especially like Gandhi and JFK. Like, I laugh whenever I see JFK because he's got this weird half-lidded look. He's got a huge ass. They give him a huge ass and a huge crotch bulge.
And a giant hair also.
Yeah.
And just looking at Scudsworth makes me laugh. Like seeing the way his fingers
curl up. Yeah.
It's like, no!
And I love this style so much too. Should I explain my background as an artist?
Oh, that's right.
Because it's my first time on What a Cartoon. I've been on Talking Simpsons 3 times. So
oh
it's
my
my first
goodness.
time on this.
Sorry.
So people might not know who I am. So I work full time for Fangamer as a shirt designer, but I also do comics, and like I do this children's graphic novel published by Scholastic called Sparks, and I'm also a former penciler for Bongo Comics. So I've drawn like over 40 stories for Simpsons Comics, and I did one Futurama comic. What a lot of people don't know about me is I also took a 1-year traditional animation program in 2002, which is when right around when Clone High premiered. It was late 2002. So I have many fond memories of quoting the show with my classmates. And when I took animation history, I fell in love with the UPA style. And I mostly do like a manga style, but whenever I have to do like a more Western style, like for Sparks, I will refer to the show for like how to draw funny looking characters or poses. I wish I was better at this flat graphic style because I love it so much. It's very it's a very efficient animation style as well, which is how it started, I think. They couldn't spend too much money on animated ads.
It was really a budget thing, but also people that want to get more into the artistic side of things, where it's just like, we're not going to try to do things realistically, but here's a fun way to work with less money.
Sorry.
And if you're not familiar with the UPA style, just look up Gerald McBoing Boing and watch that.
I just saw this really great YouTube video series on the history of UPA that just launched. It's from the channel The Royal Ocean Film Society. It is such, I had seen some of those UPA shorts, like I'd seen Mr. Magoo growing up and also the Gerald McBoing Boings, but then seeing this, the Royal Ocean Film Society, it gave me a huge new appreciation for UPA, not just for how, like 1 year, they were all 3 nominees for animated shorts. That's how big they were. And they talk about how Disney totally stole their style. They're like, shit, we got to do our own like this in the late 50s. But also that it was a labor practice thing too, that was a UPA is about united animators. Like it is a union type thing, which is really, I love that aspect of it too. Yeah.
Yeah, and like I said, this does it right. Things that I think were fun shows but didn't really get it quite right were things like The Fairly Odd Parents, The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy. There's a bunch of shows that sort of went for this flatter look, but they didn't really pull it off as well as things like Clone High, and especially like the latter era of Dexter's Lab, the sort of reboot. Like this show looks a lot like that, and there are good reasons why. So let's talk about who worked on the show. There's a lot of artists, and I feel like it's unfair that the episodes don't even get like a directed by credit at the beginning, because this show, it's not board driven, but it is very art driven. Like this show is a written script, I'm going to assume, that is given to artists, and then they decide what to do with it, with oversight by writers. But let's talk about some of the people who worked on the show. So I want to talk about the two art directors who sort of determine the character design and look of the show. And they both worked on everything you've ever loved. So Carrie Yost, he was a layout artist during the entire run of Ren and Stimpy.
Wow.
So there's a lot of Ren and Stimpy in how these characters move and react and are posed. And layout drawings are very important, especially on a show like Ren and Stimpy. So that is a huge part of why this show looks the way it does, is that he was a major part of Ren and Stimpy, not a director, but a layout guy, who are often just as important as directors in determining, unique poses and how things move. And he was also a layout artist for the newer era of Dexter's Lab. So like the post-97 super UPA looking Dexter's Labs, which people didn't like at the time, but they're so cool looking now. I don't understand.
They are pretty cool looking. I like more. I do prefer the other era, the Gennady era, but the post that era is really good too. I think actually you see a lot of the Ren and Stimpy in the Scudsworth and the Skunk episode.
Yeah, for sure. Those definitely look like games era stuff. And so also a character designer for the Powerpuff Girls movie, which is not a good movie, I think, because it is so art-driven. It's just a pretty but kind of boring movie. I don't know if you've seen it before. It's very pretty.
Very slow. It shouldn't be an origin story for one. Part of what I loved about Powerpuff Girls is their origin is just like 2 seconds in the opening, and then you get to the action. Like instead, you have to see the Powerpuff Girls be miserable forever. Like that's I don't like that. But they did recognize that Mojo Jojo is the best villain and the one to be in the movie.
And I want to go back to it. It's a really good looking movie. But also a character designer for the Mighty Bee, which looked good, and that show looks a lot like this show.
Oh yeah.
And SpongeBob SquarePants also worked on, and he's working on the upcoming Rocco movie, which is done, but not out yet because of some reason. I don't know why. We'll figure it out.
I hope a good reason
in the future. Also, character designer Dexter Smith started on Batman the Animated Series as a character designer. Bam, right there. Whoa. Do I need to say more? I will say more. Also, character designer, he was in the Warner wheelhouse for a long time. So Batman, Freakazoid, Superman, and then Samurai Jack. So you can also see Samurai Jack.
Samurai Jack in this for sure.
And that is a super UPA looking show too. Like even beyond the latter Dexter's Lab, they kept working towards this like platonic ideal of what they wanted that to be until that style kind of died.
I should watch that.
You really should. I think you'd like it.
Samurai Jack rules. I think they just put out a Blu-ray box set of the whole series because they finally did a last season of it. They were able to bring it back.
Is it a comedy?
I'd say
there are comedic episodes, but it kind of can be anything. It's a very amorphous show. It's whatever it wants to be for that episode. The episode we did of What a Cartoon was kind of a comedy until it became it's like a Western comedy, and then the last 5 minutes are all action.
It's kind of like Cowboy Bebop in that way.
Yeah.
Where it's like we can just do whatever we want in this sandbox and have some continuity.
Which I also haven't seen.
God damn it.
Boy. You're losing the audience here.
They're turning on you.
I'm not a cartoon expert. I'm a Clone High expert. It's different.
Okay.
You're just a cartoonist. What would you know about cartoons?
You've won them back. Okay, so
Well, you know what? The show's writing is amazing, but it wouldn't be nearly as funny without the visuals, the amazing visuals. And imagine if this was animated like BoJack Horseman or Archer. It would not be the same.
Or like undergrads. Yuck.
Yeah.
So series director, he's come up a few times in Art Network, Alan Smart. So notably, he directed Flaming Moe's for The Simpsons, along with working on The Simpsons for a while.
Whoa.
So he's the director of Flaming Moe's.
Wow.
Also 3 critic episodes. More importantly, he was animation director for 111 episodes of SpongeBob SquarePants.
Holy shit.
And also, this shouldn't be a surprise to you, but also a lot of Rocko's Modern Life.
Yes. Yeah.
So big name in animation, especially all the stuff that we love. And Alan Smart directly worked on everything we've ever loved on this network, 100%. But yeah, like this is a good-looking show. I love how the characters look. I love how they're posed. I love how like little things like Abe Lincoln is always with Gandhi because they're buds, but he just has to be like crouched over in every scene just to frame him with all they're all different sizes. They're all different shapes. They're just even the background characters are fun to watch. I love all the caricatures of the celebrities they bring on, like Marilyn Manson and Tom Green and that weird guy from O-Town.
when they try to shove Abe into spaces his body can't go. It's just like, or in the series finale, all the different ways they would draw Cleo and Abe kissing and just the different contortions they went into were so funny.
I love the Clone High style making out.
Yeah, just like tongues wrapped on each other and just really noisy.
Noises.
Yeah.
And you know what? You make a good point. Abe and Gandhi are together all the time, but there's such different heights, and that would be really hard to lay out, but somehow they make it work.
I think Lord and Miller definitely, I think they talked in one of the interviews too about how they got really into the LA scene of animation once they moved to LA, and they didn't keep the animators at a distance. Like, they made sure to hire a lot of the right people, while I think shows like Undergrads maybe put up walls. We're like, no, this is our show. We're just making our show. We don't need all this help. So I think Lord and Miller learned from the right people. Same with also Lord and Miller were part of the Channel 101 crew of
you're
people
right.
too,
Wow.
because they were just underemployed comedy writers in LA, so you have to get in that scene.
You do that or start a podcast.
Like Lord and Miller were executive producers on the proto Lonely Island pilot Awesome Town.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, they have their fingers in a million pies. I mean, that's also why Lonely Island sang "Everything Is Awesome" in their Lego movie.
That makes sense. But yeah, like MTV, in my opinion, animation-wise, and the quality of animation, the shows didn't really look that good in the 2000s. But they got like these 3 super talented people to work on Clone High. Somehow they all lined up. It's amazing. Like, these people have done so much cool stuff, so much cool iconic stuff in the 90s and beyond.
It feels like they had a bigger budget than other MTV shows that weren't like Daria or Beavis and Butthead. It feels like while the money was shrinking on all these other shows, like also Bill Lawrence is a bigger producer than anybody that touched an MTV animated series beforehand.
It is true.
Well, and maybe they had the money because they had Nelvana and Teletoon backing up at the cash as well, not just MTV's meager budget that mostly pays for Sifl and Ollie hand puppets.
Oh, and speaking of Sifl and Ollie, Liam Lynch wrote songs for Clone High.
Oh, wow.
At least one of them. I assume he wrote more, but he wrote the food group song that Marilyn Manson sings. When I saw his name in the credits, I was like, that's fucking Ollie. Or sorry, yes, Ollie.
I mean, he's both. He's Sifl and Ollie.
No, Sifl is the other guy.
Yeah, but I mean, that guy's, he was lucky to get on the Liam Lynch train.
That's true.
That guy. Matt Crocco.
Liam Lynch's hands paid the bills.
And yeah, the celebrities, I want to talk about them real quick, is because that feels the most to me like the Bill Lawrence touch, because Scrubs is an amazing cast, but they also knew like getting famous people makes people watch your show more. So they were very good at getting famous people like Courtney Cox on the show to boost ratings. And they were just most episodes were rather guest driven on that show. And so this show got a lot of people who were either appearing on Scrubs at the time or were just friends of Bill Lawrence. There's Tom Green, Marilyn Manson, John Stamos, Jack Black, Luke Perry, Michael J. Fox, and perhaps Mandy Moore?
Question mark.
Question mark?
She was appearing on Scrubs at the time. She was one of Zach Braff's girlfriends on the show.
But the caricatures are so funny. I think that's why I like the littering episode, because the caricature of Luke Perry is so great. Just to look, I laugh whenever I see it.
They make him.
That is my favorite episode, by the way.
They make him believably Ponce de Leon, but also Luke Perry.
But I also
guys.
I also like how they how much they make fun of Ashley Angel from O-Town.
Yes.
I will know Ashley Angel forever as Alex from Lunar Silver Star Story Complete.
What?
He was a shitty voice actor before he was a shitty boy band member.
Wow.
But they're like, they talk about like, oh, he's from that famous band. Backstreet Boys? No. NSYNC? No. 90 Degrees? No. They go through like every boy band before they get to O-Town.
Does he actually have CG eyebrows?
You know what? I think he's a beautiful man, but his eyebrows are real.
What was it? That was the one I didn't rewatch before this. What was the town in Canada they're going to?
I think it was just Canada Town.
Just Canada Town.
I think so.
I didn't realize.
Know this.
Is it in America called Clone High? So when I watch the streaming or the Amazon version,
me too.
It's Clone High USA. Like, is that what they call it in Canada? Or
no, it's just Clone High up here.
I
don't know why they add USA down there.
That's very odd.
Make it more American.
It's sort of like the toilet that has to flush the other way in Bart versus Australia. I saluted those bumpers every time they showed up.
It was a post 9/11 show.
Oh wow, yeah, it's true.
Well, and also to make this show more like a 2000s animated series, the creators of the show, Phil Lord and Chris Miller, do a ton of voices on it too.
They're so good.
I mean, they're Scudsworth and Butlertron together, which is so funny. But I mean, JFK, Christopher Miller's JFK rules. It kind of steals every scene he's in.
I mean, we know from doing this show that I love characters in cartoons that scream, and I love loud cartoons. So Scudsworth is great. JFK is great. Actually, Scudsworth took a while to grow on me. But by the end, I think whoever does that voice was really understanding like how to do that voice, because the last 2 episodes he's just screaming and lots of things are happening to him, and I think he eventually figured it out by the end of the season.
That is Phil Lord.
Yeah.
He's my favorite character.
In the series finale, when he's saying like, I don't need to tell you I rigged the elections, but I guess I did. Oh, God.
When he's screaming with the bloody crown on his head, that's one of my favorite moments.
So much blood on this show.
Yeah, I know. It's pretty gory.
Yeah,
very painful looking whenever there is gore.
There is a part towards the end of the series where Scudsworth is screaming and laughing so much the actor is actually coughing, and they work that into the scene. And I was like, wow, he was just going for it. It was great.
You could tell the animators had a lot of fun with Scudworth too.
Yeah, especially like we talked about
poses.
His fingers like curling in.
Yes, I love it so much.
Oh God, his just anger, his rage, or how happy he is. Like Scudsworth is a horrible person, but that's what I love about him. He's like he is this evil taskmaster of the kids, but only lives for his own like hate and rage and cruelty.
And what I love is how Scudworth and Mr. Butlertron are always kind of in their own cartoon. They're off doing their own thing while other things are happening.
They rarely interact with the clones.
Yeah, they kind of tried in the first episode, then they kind of gave up.
This episode is a perfect example of that. Yeah,
that's true. Yeah,
and
they got their own plot line going on.
And I suppose in a history of Clone High,
right,
it would not be complete if we didn't talk about Gandhi and the controversy around that as well.
It's funny because outside of their character designs, who these clones used to be is not really that important. Like, maybe it is a little bit more for Abe, but they rarely reference the actual figures outside of a few jokes. So it's not really important that, he was Gandhi or he was Abe or whatever. They're just funny characters that have fun
Abe,
designs.
JFK, and Joan, I think they have the most reference to what they actually were based on. Aside from that, everyone's like their own character.
I love when he says, I'm a Kennedy, I'm not accustomed to tragedy.
Yeah. One thing I will say...
ever happens to the Kennedys.
One thing I will say, in that they were very smart, this could have been a choice that they could have made in the early 2000s, not giving Gandhi an accent.
Yeah.
Very smart move.
I give them tons of credit for that.
Yeah, because 3 years later, there'd be a show on Cartoon Network called Camp Lazlo, made by the Rocko's Modern Life creator, and they just made an Apu-style character with Tom Kenny doing an Indian accent.
For an elephant.
For an elephant, yes. So you figure it out.
Yeah.
And there are no jokes about Gandhi being Indian.
Mm-hmm. No.
Actually, one of the few times I can remember him even referencing being Indian is when he is pitching the buddy cop film to Carver. He's like, you know how people think that Indians and African Americans can't get along? He's like, no.
But I think
that's about it.
We'll get into the scandal, but I think out of all the characters, they were most quote unquote reverent to who Gandhi's character is based on or cloned from, because again, they don't really bring up the actual Gandhi.
They were crueler to Jesus Christ.
That's true. That's true.
That scene was cut in all re-airings on MTV, by the way.
What, really?
Yeah, I remember in my looking for the YouTube versions of it, it's like, this has to be the first broadcast version of it. I got to see the deleted scene of him doing carpentry in woodshop.
I love that, though. I love Jesus Cristo.
Actually, there's a really good article about it's called The Complicated Racial Legacy of MTV's Cult Classic Clone High by Isha Aran, who she talks about being living in America, being a young woman of South Asian descent, and how few characters you even had then, and that Gandhi compared to Apu was quite good to her, like because he got to be a fun party guy, like he was just silly, and also the Gandhi, as this episode reminded me, like, oh yeah, Gandhi is raised by heavy Jewish stereotypes.
That's right.
He has no markings of being a stereotypically Indian person, but so I would just say
I can totally see that because he's Indian, but there's, like I said, there's no jokes about him being Indian. Like he could be any race and he'd still be a funny character.
So his say what is funny no matter who Gandhi is.
His big puppy dog eyes. I love when all the characters do that when their eyes just get really big
and the raised hands.
Yeah, the raised hands.
And just his sadness about never seeing that guy have sex with a pie.
Why don't you just rent it?
All those great moments, but I would say if people want to see what a South Asian person felt about that, that's a really good article.
Okay.
But at the time, when especially some politicians in India heard about this Gandhi character as being this goofy dork who, including in this Maxim story on it where they did some original art, it's a picture of him being bullied and like beaten up by a football player, which, you know, taken out of context, maybe seems extra cruel to do to Gandhi.
Yeah, I can see that.
And so there were several public demonstrations against this. Some politicians actually said they were going to go on a hunger strike if the show wasn't canceled. MTV of India was in danger of losing its licensing rights in the country of India over it. And so at the time, Clone High wasn't a particular hit anyway. I mean, if you could see MTV maybe trying to stand by them if they were a Beavis and Butthead sized hit, but as an unsuccessful show that they were going to cancel anyway, this did not help Clone High at all. And so the show was canceled. They talked about what they would have done in a season 2 if it had happened.
And there was a cliffhanger in the last episode of the season and the series.
And they say that their suggestions to fix Gandhi would have been to just have him no longer appear on the show at all, just to not deal with it, or to say that Gandhi was they find out that Gandhi was actually a clone of Gary Coleman, and then they never talk about it again. They never talk about him being Gandhi, like one of those two things. But they didn't do anything because the show was canceled. But so that was the reactions to Gandhi at the time. I'm just some white guy. I feel Gandhi is a funny character on the show, but if some people are insulted with how this portrays a version of Gandhi, then I don't know. You can feel that way.
And that character could be anybody, really.
Yes, yeah.
Sorry, Nina.
Mm-hmm. Bill Lawrence admits they could have written Gandhi better. And he says we were just a bunch of dumb comedy writers back then. If they were to create the character now, I guess I would rethink how they portray him or not make it Gandhi at all. And actually, Chris Miller was vacationing in Costa Rica when the whole controversy started. And he said he got 15 minutes of internet access and found out about the protests. Can you imagine that?
Oh, God.
And he talked with the MTV execs, and he was all, hey, any publicity is good publicity, right? And they were like, oh, no, we're taking off the air and scrubbing all existence from our website.
Oh, Jesus.
He was like, oh, okay.
I will say, though, this show is 15 years old, and some comedy tends to age like milk, especially from the more edgelordy 2000s era. Mm-hmm. But going through this, I was surprised there weren't any jokes where I was like, oh, no, they did that. I was really surprised by just not a whole lot of problematic stuff in there 15 years later. And that would be really easy to find in a lot of other things from this era.
Mm-hmm. No, I mean, I love JFK's gay dads. They're funny.
Gay dads.
Supportive gay dads.
So yeah, the show did get canceled in 2003. It basically it got aired so poorly here that this episode aired in April, I believe, Snowflake Day. The show was airing in December, and they're like, nah, we're taking it off TV, not even airing it in December.
Yeah, I saw all the other bad MTV cartoons, but not this one. I saw them all on TV, but I never saw this on TV.
Well, and this was even more so than Undergrads. This is a very linear show. That's why you have all these previously ons. And they aired it kind of out of order as well, which Makeover aired 3 episodes before it was supposed to, when that's part 1 of the finale.
Mm-hmm. Although I will say, you can jump into any episode and it's still like funny, and you can still kind of figure out what's going on between the characters because it's generic. I mean, that's the point. Especially Snowflake Day. Anyone can just watch this and understand the basic plot of what's been happening.
And it's really easy to jump into, I think, because the characters, some of my favorite writing on the show is when characters outright say everything they feel and just have, or they will all but say, like Joan's like, and I have such an important thing to tell you. I just can't. I just can't. Or in the first episode, another of my favorite jokes is when Joan is trying to confess her feelings to Abe, and he's just like, only Cleo. Only Cleo.
One thing I like is all their previously ons, or in the next episode of Clone High, they always have like different jokes.
Yeah.
So they're worth watching. They'll even have like clips that don't show up in the next episode.
Will Forte makes them all very funny too.
Yeah.
With his delivery.
You get more Will Forte in those.
So yeah, show gets canceled. Lord and Miller would go on to get a ton of big deals. Their film careers really began when they did a long development cycle on Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. They actually wrote a script, got fired, got rehired, then were given the directorial duties on top of script writing, and they finally got to release it in 2009. And from then, they were being big time stars. They did 21 and 22 Jump Street, and also the Lego Movie. All three of those on paper sound like terrible films that would suck. And they made them so good, so much better than they ever deserved to be.
I'm sad their Han Solo movie never got made.
I know. Yeah. I was looking forward to that movie until they got fired from it for being too funny.
I'm guessing, they weren't reverent enough to the fucking Star Wars character.
They were doing too good a job, and Lawrence Kasdan was like, Han Solo wouldn't say that. We need a boring guy to make this. And they got their boring fucking movie.
Ron Howard, explain his vest reverently.
I posted a Simpsons meme on Twitter when that happened with Hans Moleman in the telephone booth saying, "I need the funniest directors you have." No, that's too funny.
Yeah, I had heard. It's hard to know how much of Solo is them. I had heard that every scene that Tandy Newton is in, that was all them. But that's also why it's a weird ass film where characters will like kind of float in and out of it. Especially like Paul Bettany's character was apparently very late addition, and so those are all new scenes. It's a weird Frankenstein of a film, and you wonder how much there are some bits in there that feel very Lord and Miller to me, especially with the robot pilot of the ship. She seems very.
Oh yeah, now that you mention it, there are some movies I've seen just because I found out that Lord and Miller were a part of it. I had no interest in Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs until I found out that they directed it.
Mm-hmm.
And that would turn out to be really good. And same thing with Lego Movie. I wasn't going to watch the Lego Movie. Then I found out they were involved. I'm like, oh, hell yeah, I'll watch this. And it was great.
It's the Lego Movie is so funny. And they've been executive producers on many movies. They were executive producers on the Lego Batman film, which also is so funny and an amazing celebration of Batman. And
I will argue that's one of the best Batman films.
It really is. Like, not the best. Listen to our Mask of the Phantasm podcast, listeners. And then their most recent success was after they got fired from Solo. They said they kind of didn't want to do a big budget film anymore, but Sony, who they worked with on Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, talked them back to do more animation with them. This is a whole other podcast about Spider-Man film rights, but partially for Marvel to get to make an MCU Spider-Man live action film, they then gave Sony the rights to do an animated Spider-Man film. And I also was like, Sony has fucked up Spider-Man films so much. I'm not looking forward to this. But Lord and Miller, as executive producers, working with a lot of people they worked with, even back to Clone High, make Into the Spider-Verse, and it is so good. It's amazingly animated. It's gorgeous to look at, and it tells a funny story. Like, there's a lot of Clone High type jokes in it too. And it's a funny story, but with real emotions, which also Clone High succeeds at too.
I might see this movie actually.
I want to see it so badly. As a big Spider-Man fan and a Lord and Miller fan, I gotta see it. Oh, I live like 2 blocks away from a movie theater. What am I doing?
Walk out of the podcast right now and go see the new.
Let us know how it is.
No.
Like Gandhi running off to watch American Pie.
And also there is a Clone High reference in it too, in the multiverse area where Miles Morales lives. In the Times Square, there is a giant poster for Clone U with a picture of Abe and JFK in it. Like they licensed them to appear in the film. It's not even.
I thought it was Clone College.
Oh, Clone College. Okay, yes,
yeah, just for an inside joke. Wow.
That in this universe, Clone High was very successful, and it's now getting new motion pictures.
The next generation.
It's a better world.
I agree.
I want to go into the Spider-Verse.
We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back with Snowflake Day.
Today, on a special Clone High break, it's Henry Gilbert.
Hey, this is Nork Neater Bob Mackey. You'll find out what a Nork is soon.
And thanks very much for listening to this week's podcast of What a Cartoon. We really appreciate it, just like we appreciate our guest, Nina Matsumoto. And you should really check out her Twitter account, her art. She did an amazing piece of art for our January 16th live show for Talking Simpsons.
And that's Space Coyote on Twitter. It's Space Coyote, but instead of the E, it's an L. And you can find all of her stuff via links there. Prints and fan gamer stuff and more.
And I mean, as long as we're talking about things you can look at on the internet,
ooh,
have you heard of patreon.com/Talking Simpsons, listener?
Oh, I know I have. They pay me every month. So if you want to support our show and get a bunch of bonus podcasts on top of that, just go to patreon.com/Talking Simpsons and join the Talking Simpsons network of shows. If you give it the $5 level, you'll get all of these podcasts you're listening to right now a week ahead of time and ad-free. And the same goes for our sister show, Talking Simpsons, a week ahead of time and ad-free for that show as well. Also, there's so much stuff going on the Patreon at the $5 level. Exclusive series like Talking Futurama, Talking Critic, and our new exclusive Spinny series for 2019. Who knows what that will be, but everyone will vote on it very, very soon. Also, we have interviews, we have end of season wrap-ups, we have monthly community podcasts. There is so much happening only for subscribers to Talking Simpsons Network. And if you sign up at the $5 level, you'll get access to most of our bonus podcast, but there is a $10 level as well. Isn't that right, Henry?
That's right. For the special folks who go up to the $10 and above level, you get access to our monthly What a Cartoon Movie podcast. Do you love me and Bob talking about a different animated TV series each week, but wish we did animated films? That's what we do every month, and our patrons get to vote on it. In November, they chose Batman Mask of the Phantasm, and me and Bob talked about how it is the best Batman film ever made. December, Kiki's Delivery Service. It is my favorite Ghibli film, and we talk a ton about that too. And you'll get access to that and all of our previous premium $10 content if you sign up right now today or upgrade to $10 a month. It's really cool and a great way to support me and Bob doing this full time.
And if you sign up at the $5 or $10 level, you'll get a nice little code. You can drop that into your podcast machine, and it will download our bonus podcast alongside all of your other podcasts. Patreon also has a very good app that has gotten a ton better over the years, and you can use that to access our bonus content as well. It's actually a very nice little app, but if you want to fit us into your normal everyday podcasting schedule and life, you can just use the code to fit us alongside all of your normal non-premium podcasts, including our own.
So one more time, that address is patreon.com/Talking Simpsons. Super duper easy to sign up for, and it'd be a great Snowflake Day gift for me and Bob if you were to as well. So join the Talking Simpsons network today.
Yes, skip the lamb tacos and go to patreon.com/Talking Simpsons.
And now, back to this podcast.
Whole grains are the foundation, so please take my advice. Have 5 to 11 servings of bread, cereal, or rice. 3 to 5 of vegetables, and 4 of fruits is best. Their antioxidants and fiber help you to digest. 3 servings of yogurt, milk, and cheese will help your bones and subsidize the cattle industries. A body needs to grow. and growing takes routines. That's why meat can be a tasty treat like fish or human beings. When you eat your sweets, make sure you try to limit your servings or you'll die. Everybody!
So we're back with Snowflake Day, and Principal Scudsworth makes a brief appearance. He appears sort of at the beginning of every act to do just have some jokes, but this one he actually sets up the premise of the episode in which a year ago the UN has banned all the exclusionary Christmas holidays, so now there is just Snowflake Day, which everyone can celebrate all at once during the winter season. And Joan of Arc, of course, is the sulky sort of goth girl in the cast, although she is very nerdy. She's not psyched about Snowflake Day, but Gandhi is very excited about it. And all the spices he will get, and the lighting of the snowman.
So, do you burn down a snowman and just watch it melt? That's every description of Snowflake Day customs just makes me more interested in it. Like, how did these come together?
I want to know all about the satchel exchange. We only saw one of those, but so Cleo appears and Abe appears to talk to Joan about the party and also about big expensive gifts.
Jolly Snowflake Day, Joan. Would you like a bite of my lamb taco? It's just not Snowflake Day without a lamb taco.
Cripes! Why is everyone so cripes darn cheerful?
Well, you better be cheerful at my annual Snowflake Day party, because those crackers won't hand out themselves.
I can't wait.
Neither can I, Joan. We're all going to exchange snowflake care satchels.
Speaking of which, Abe, I can't wait for my big, expensive Snowflake Day gift.
Oh, don't worry, Cleo. I'll get you the best gift ever.
A clamp to keep her legs closed?
No, even better than that. Where am I going to get money to buy Cleo a good present?
Have a bar mitzvah, dude. You get mad stacks.
Sounds sweet, but I think I'm going to do the Christian thing. Get a job.
Right on. Both Bill Gates and Will Smith have jobs, and they're millionaires. To jobs.
So I really love how sincere Abe is, in that he's so sincere he's oblivious to everything at the same time.
I like how big his pupils get.
Yeah.
Before we get too deep into the episode, I wanted to talk a bit about the theme song.
Oh yeah, we didn't mention the theme song, which our listeners probably heard.
By the Abandoned Pools.
Yeah.
The Abandoned Pools is a synth pop alt rock band from LA, headed by Tommy Walter, who's also from the Eels. And all their music sounds like the soundtrack to a teen romance series or movie, so it's perfect. They actually also released a cover of The First Noel in 2013. It sounds oddly sincere. But yeah, the theme song is great. It just explains the whole premise. It's very, very catchy.
It's too
Every time
catchy.
I watch the show, it gets stuck in my head for like a week.
No, it's such a great theme song that like other shows back then weren't explaining the concept in a theme song as often. So it felt like a fun callback to classic, just any classic sitcom, really.
Actually, I didn't know this until I rewatched this episode to prepare for this podcast. The Snowflake Day episode has a slightly different version of the opening theme. There's there's bells in the background, which I never noticed before.
Yeah, it's very subtle, but they did change the theme a little. They just layered a sound over it.
Well, I love that this episode starts with a parody of the CBS special, like bump, bump, bump.
Oh,
bump.
right. That's the last time you could reference that.
I was bouncing off the walls when I saw that. I was like, these guys get me. Oh, yeah.
Sorry, what?
Oh, Dina doesn't know about this.
Well, she's from Canada. You know how they are.
I only know about Clone High, sorry.
The like Clone High special thing that starts the very start of the episode, you would see that on CBS, the television network CBS, at the start of like Garfield Christmas or the Peanuts Christmas
Mainly
special.
to alert you to the appearance of Garfield.
Yeah. It will let you know that this is a special that is taking over the slot of a regular series. So it's like, tonight is a special on CBS. They go, bump-a-dump, bump-a-dump.
Because this is a Canadian co-production, I wondered, is there a French-Canadian version of Clone High? And so I looked it up on YouTube, and yes, all of French-Canadian Clone High is on YouTube.
Whoa.
And then I watched this episode all in French. I do also know French because I grew up in Canada, and you have to learn French. I was in late immersion, actually. And the French-Canadian version of the Clone High theme song is great. I encourage people to listen.
Wow.
If you send it to me, I'll put it in here.
Y'avait dans les années 80 un labo d'état clandestin où des mecs barges ont eu comme dessin de cloner d'illustres humains. À présent, ces adolescents, malgré leurs ancêtres brillants, découvrent le sexe en tâtonnant et partagent leurs envies et leurs tourments. Qui suis-je à Clone High? Un être humain ou un cobaye Clone High? Déjà survivre est une bataille Clone High. Pourtant le plaisir est de taille Clone High. Clone High.
It's called La Fête du Flocon, this episode.
Oh, well, is it called... what's the series called in French? Is it just still Clone High?
It's just Clone High.
Okay.
And JFK is terrible in French because he doesn't have that accent.
Oh, God.
He doesn't have like all the us or anything, so he's just like a guy. A regular guy. And Abe has a weird dum-dum voice, you know?
Weird.
He's like, oh, you sweetie, oh. And he sounds like how Santa sounds in the stop motion segment later in this episode.
You need like a thin, reedy, screamy voice like Will Forte has.
Well, how boy, without his accent, how does the "For dinner I want a summer platter" scene even work? Like
the potty platter.
Potty platter.
Potty platter.
You know what? I hadn't watched it, but I think I will now. The singing segment for JFK later, sorry to get too ahead, but in French, like he just sings kind of badly and that's it.
I guess that accent can't really translate too well to a lot of other languages.
It's very specific. So the concept of Snowflake Day, I wonder where at the time they fell on this, because this could either feel like a parody of the fears of the war on Christmas or actually saying, hey, the UN's out to censor holidays. We shouldn't do that. Like, I'm curious what you guys think of like the political intent of Snowflake Day is in this.
Well, this was the early 2000s, and that's when the so-called war on Christmas began, isn't it?
Yeah, which we talked a ton about in the American Dad episode we did last week. Mm-hmm. I'm curious, when they say UN mandated, like that actually was the fear of a lot of Christians in America to be like, the UN's going to tell us what we can celebrate, which like the UN has absolutely no power, can't do shit. Like it's not like...
It read to me as a satire of the greatest fear of a conservative Christian in America.
I think so too. Yeah. Like knowing Lord and Miller's comedy style, I think that's what they were going for. I don't think they were saying, oh, look at
the PC police.
Yeah. And also the name Snowflake Day is kind of unfortunate now.
Oh yeah.
It's a derogatory term for liberals.
Every day is Snowflake Day when I'm on the internet.
I don't think that's what Lord and Miller were going for though.
Oh, absolutely not. Snowflake didn't exist. I mean, that is a relatively recent term in the culture wars on the internet. Yeah.
Snowflake Day is a perfect name though, because when you try to come up with like generic holiday designs, usually you just put a snowflake in there and that's it.
And no two liberal snowflakes are alike.
With the concept that the UN with the greeting card company crafted Snowflake Day to be as bland as possible, the idea of like, this is frozen water created by nature. You can see no religious symbolism in it at all. That's what makes it so wonderfully bland. Like a snowflake tastes like nothing. Yeah. It's nothing.
I mean, I don't even think we talked about this in the American Dad episode, but the war on Christmas, if you want to believe in it, it's just capitalism. It's just like, let's make this appeal to as many people as possible so we can sell everybody on a holiday season.
Which, that is what I love about Snowflake Day in this, that it keeps all of the cultural markings of consumerism that all religious holidays have. It just removed the religion. Like, it's as soulless as possible, Snowflake Day in operation.
You gotta buy spices upon spices. People.
I wonder if
I do like how it's like weirdly pirate themed for some reason.
Snowflake Jake.
I wonder if the UN was, they're like, well, we got to sell a lot of spices and lamb meat. Let's make it about that. We have a surplus of these. All those spices. And that too, I love Scudsworth's line at the beginning that sets up that it's only been a year, yet everyone knows every rule of Snowflake Day and loves it like they've been celebrating it since birth.
Everyone is way into it but Joan. Like Joan is the one who makes sense. Like, why would you like this holiday? It's barely been a year old.
And she's basically Charlie Brown in this of like, I'm just not feeling Christmas. I just don't know.
So bar mitzvahs, have you ever been to one?
No.
So I used to do Simpsons portrait commissions at conventions. And one year, someone discovered me at a convention and hired me to draw portraits for a couple of hours at a bar mitzvah because, like, the kid, the bar mitzvah was centered around, he's a huge Simpsons fan. And I never want to do that again because I'm not great with kids, and drawing with a bunch of hyperactive kids running around was not easy because they kept trying to get close and watch me draw, and they kept bumping into my drawing elbow when I'm inking the portraits. And I would ask them to keep the area around my right arm clear, but they would not listen, and the parents didn't care. And in the end, I think everyone was happy, but I was like, I don't want to do this again. This is not my scene.
They should have called it a Bart mitzvah. They messed up. But I guess
they
their
did,
God,
actually.
They called it a Bart mitzvah.
Fun.
Oh, their God's going to punish them now. They're all going to hell.
There was actually like a giant Bart Simpson balloon sculpture. It was pretty cool.
Wow, man, they did not skip these parents on this. Boy,
I don't know bar mitzvahs very well. Do you get a lot of money at bar mitzvahs?
I mean, it's like a super birthday. I know that.
Yeah, it's like you become a man. It only happens. Well, it can happen again if you live to be as old as Kirk Douglas.
Cash?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, lots. I mean,
wow.
I guess it depends on what level of class your family lives in. But yeah, if I've heard you get a lot of stuff on that.
If they carry you out of the synagogue in that chair, you keep the chair. That's what I've heard.
So you're already making a lot of money on chairs.
It's no ska mitzvah.
And speaking of money, so millionaires, Will Smith's net worth is $300 million. And Bill Gates, obviously he's not just a millionaire, he's a billionaire at $94.9 billion.
It's because they both have jobs.
Yes. and how like Neil deGrasse Tyson put into perspective how rich Bill Gates is. Okay, by the way, I know Tyson is in the news right now for certain allegations, but I just wanted to bring this up because it's interesting. If you're walking down the street and say like you saw a penny on the ground, you probably wouldn't bother picking it up. But if you saw a quarter, you might go for it. And to Bill Gates, his quarter would have to be $45,000. That's how rich he is.
So you're saying we should find him and rob him?
Oh yeah. I mean, if you want to hear about what a scam Bill Gates is running right now, they should listen to the Citations Needed All About Bill Gates, that podcast. That's a really good one. But I love these lines here because I was getting into the workforce at this time. Actually, around when this episode aired was when I got my first part-time job. I didn't get a part-time job until I was 18. And
me too.
That was at a movie theater. And so when I think about how disillusioned they became, especially the joke about mall parking.
Yeah.
I worked at a movie theater in a mall, and I kept thinking about like, oh, I've almost paid off the mall parking as I'm washing out the things that make popcorn.
2 hours in, I can buy lunch. But yeah, let's hear Abe and Gandhi at TGI Chili's.
Dude, this blows. I don't know how Will Smith and Bill Gates do this.
Come on, Gandhi. 2 more hours and we'll have paid for the mall parking.
I need a fork.
Always with the utensils.
And mayhaps a knife as well?
Every time. I have to make 2 trips. Can I have a fork? Can I have a knife? Jeez, every time.
Lincoln, we need those plates right now! Gandhi traditional snowflake sombrero dance! Go!
What a jerk! Napoleon's got some sort of a complex. I don't know what it is, but man.
So one of the traditions, I guess, is wearing a sombrero while dancing naked with your crotch on fire.
Well, no, the crotch fire is accidental.
Oh, right, the hat was on fire.
Yes.
Sorry, I just remember the crotch fire.
There's a lot of nudity from Gandhi in this series.
Yeah, it's funny that at one time he was ashamed of his small penis in a painting, but now he's like, I'll just be nude anytime. It's meaningless to him at that point.
Maybe. So have you ever worked at a restaurant?
No, I've worked at a movie theater and a lot of food stuff there, which was no fun. I did wash. I was a dishwasher like Abe, or I washed things there.
I worked at a Taco Bell, but that's not a restaurant.
My first job ever was bussing at a rotating sushi bar in downtown Vancouver.
Whoa.
If anyone else listening is from Vancouver, I remember Tsunami Sushi. That's where I worked. And it was actually a popular spot for celebrities. So I would see famous people once in a while. Yeah, like David Suzuki, who's a Canadian national treasure. You might not know who he is. Cameron Manheim from The Practice and Hilary Duff.
Wow, that's a cool.
I also don't mind washing dishes, so I did apply to be a dishwasher at several restaurants. But apparently it's a job that requires a lot of physical lifting, so they didn't think I was cut out for the job.
At times I enjoyed washing things more than contact with people at cash registers. But other times I would spray the very hot water out of the thing on my hand and be like, what am I doing with my life?
Wait, did you not wear gloves?
No, I did not. No.
Were you not supposed to?
I mean, there weren't gloves around. This was just not thought about.
You were
dispelled like $2.
I know, but this was Florida, where the minimum wage was $5. I think it was.
My first job was $5.25, I think.
Yeah,
and they could have paid me $5.15, and they always told me that. Like, wow,
that's
thanks.
Ridiculous. What is it now?
Like
nationally, it's $7.25.
Yeah, which is
that's still way too cheap.
Oh yeah,
I got paid way more than that as a busser.
I'm with Bernie Sanders on this stuff, man. But it's so well. That's what is so great. The mall parking is more. When I worked 8 hours at that movie theater and walked away with $40, I was like, what am I fucking doing? Why am I bothering?
That blows.
Yeah, I do remember when a full day of work was $40 at minimum wage. Just like, I can't even buy a video game with my day's worth of work.
And we were
that's depressing.
And we were lucky. We were lucky suburbanites who could live with our parents and weren't paying rent with that kind of money. Like that's. Oh God, it was so this scene really spoke to me in 2003 when I saw this.
Did you have a boss with a Napoleon complex?
Actually, yes, I did.
Oh, really?
Though he also had a weird sexual thing too, which with any of the girls who worked there, he would just be friendly with them. I never heard any allegations, but he was like, "Boy, you're not nice to any man here, and you're friendly to every woman."
I'm sure there are nice retail managers, but everyone I've dealt with was sort of like a tin pot dictator. They're like, "This is as far as I will go in life, and you will bow at my feet."
I looked up to see how much truth there is to the Napoleon complex, and well, first of all, he wasn't that short. He was just like 5'4" or 5'5". So that's like
You're just saying that because that's taller than you.
To me, he's like a mountain. No, like he was often seen standing next to his imperial guards who wore really tall helmets. So it made him look shorter. And that's why the accounts of him say he looks short. And there was actually a university study done in 2007 with the conclusion that short men are no more aggressive or short-tempered than tall men. Huh. And this is how they conducted the study. They got short guys to duel tall guys with sticks.
That's how we sort them out.
Knuckles. I would have loved to have seen that. I like to think it's like the stick fighting scene in Pacific Rim that they later got to pilot giant robot suits together.
That's wow.
I'm thinking of a scene from Spaceballs.
What a strange way to test out the aggressiveness. But I think it's anti-Franco propaganda from the English that makes us think Napoleon was so short.
That sounds right. He's a real monster in this because Gandhi comes in as somehow his crotch is caught on fire, and through his flailing, Abe drops a glass and has to eat it because we eat our mistakes here. That's what he says. The first of some major mouth trauma for Abe in this episode.
I'm glad you didn't play that part of the scene because
it's all visual too.
It's anti-ASMR.
Yeah.
Like it's not just the sound of chewing on glass, but also then the utensils in the garbage disposal. Like these are the worst noises. My husband, we were watching this together.
Yeah.
My husband was like wanted to turn it off at that point.
It's like audio chaos. So while Abe is eating the glass, Gandhi's flailing around. He hits the garbage disposal switch, and it fuses the knife and fork together, and that's when they get their brilliant idea of what their new invention will be.
I love that setup to it too of Gandhi just saying over and over again, like, "Can I get a knife? Can I get a fork?" Like this is one of my favorite things about Clone High in general is that they deal in all these tropes of shows that then always lead to a cul-de-sac. Like Scudsworth gets to start every act with his story, which because he's supposed to be setting up what the episode's about, but he never talks about it. It's just a dumb letter to his family about gross stuff. And then in this scene too, there's them going like, "Can I have a fork? Can I have a knife?" Like it then leads to them getting the spife.
We never
I like
see
how
them.
he keeps popping in and out of the door too.
Yeah.
You can only do that in animation. The part where the knife and fork twist together. So I'm terrified of carburetors.
Yeah, they're called carburetors in your country.
Yeah, they're called carburetor. I'm not sure why, but that's what what did you say they're called? They're a garbage disposal unit. Garbage disposal. Okay.
I would not say unit.
Doesn't carburetor sound better to you?
It's like refrigerator. I kind of like it.
It sounds more terrifying.
They are terrifying. Every time I drop something in there, like utensils or a shot glass, I have to like fish it out with my I have to fish it out by sticking my hand in there. I'm so nervous.
Yep, it's
like hit the fuse box before you do that.
I didn't live in a place for 9 years with one, and now I've moved back in there with one, and it does make me nervous. Even when I know I'm the only person in the house, and like twice I've dropped something down there, I'm like, I know I'm the only person here. No one's going to turn it on, but
I've seen a lot of movies.
Yeah.
My roommate has a cat, so I'm like, what if the cat comes in and like accidentally switches it on?
Oh, he's waiting for his chance. You know it.
He's going to get all that sweet meat.
Did you know you have to replace those once in a while? They got all rusted over and corroded.
I hope someone
get
else
a hole
does
in
it.
them.
Yeah, I'm not doing that. That's up to the Superman. I'm calling him not Superman, but my
superintendent. So we see that Joan is working as one of Snowflake Jake's helpers, or perhaps this is one of a helper of Snowflake Jake, being Snowflake Jake, and she's the helper of a helper.
Yes, that's not the real Snowflake Jake.
But you find out, like Santa, you sit on a part of him, but in this case, it's his back. And that's when you ask for spices. And Joan is not very happy with this part-time job. Who knows why she takes it? She clearly hates it.
She has lots of bad jobs just to pay for things, I think, because she's so poor, her and Toots.
The one spice Snowflake Jake has is sassafras.
Will Forte screaming is funny to me. Will Forte being overly earnest is funny to me. And his sassy voice is also always funny to me.
We'll call it a sassy voice.
Him and yes. Him in Gravity Falls, actually, he uses that voice. His one character is just a guy who moves his arms up and down and says, "Get him. Get him."
Yeah, the line is, I'll tell you what spice she's got, sassafras.
Yeah.
That line is not in the French version.
Oh, come on.
You see the guy's lips moving and he says nothing.
Boo.
Those Frenchies weren't trying hard enough. But Joan has to go empty his chum bucket out, and that's when we meet our special guest star.
Hate this stupid holiday.
Don't say that, Joan. And I could have used that chum.
Sorry, I didn't realize. How'd you know my name?
I don't know your name. I call everyone Joan. It's like saying dude or bro or, in your case, Joan of Arc. But that's not important right now. What is important is that you continue to spread the Snowflake Day spirit.
Snowflake Day sucks. All those kids are so greedy. Oh, give me some spices. I'm fat. I want some parsley.
Lucky kids with their spices. I have to eat the salt they sprinkle on the roads when the ice freezes.
Who cares about spices and seasonings and traditional snowflake meats? Snowflake Day is just another made-up holiday, courtesy of the greeting card industry, just like Valentine's Day and Easter.
I can take her out right now.
So there's a running joke throughout this episode in which whenever Joan of Arc, trashes Snowflake Day, a sniper takes a shot at her from the greeting card company.
Just barely misses, and she's like, what a feeling in my ear there, instead of her head exploding.
So that is Aerith herself, Mandy Moore, doing a voice.
She voiced Aerith?
For one Kingdom Hearts game, I think. Just the first one.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've never listened to her music, but I liked her a lot in the 2004 movie Saved.
Oh, yeah, that was great. And also, she's the main character in Tangled.
I didn't know that until I was doing research for this episode. I haven't seen Tangled, but maybe
I haven't either.
I think all of those young chanteuses of the late 90s, they all got kind of bad deals. Like Britney was being shitted on by everybody for daring to, live and have children. And same with Christina Aguilera. And I think they've done their best. I am saying leave Britney alone. I'm saying it. But
you got to cry more.
But Mandy Moore, she transitioned to acting sooner than the other two than her compatriots, and I think too she got in more quality stuff too. Like she didn't go when Britney Spears finally first started a movie. It was a Britney Spears ass movie starring Britney
Crossroads.
Spears. But in Mandy Moore's case, she had supporting roles. Like sometimes she was a star in movies, but in other films, like in Saved, she was great as the most repressive bitch in all of a high school. Like she's so great in that, and so is Susan Sarandon's daughter, or whatever her name is. Her eyes.
Saved was a pretty good movie, because I liked how it satirized Christianity without demonizing it.
Yeah, at the end they're like, look, hey, we can all be Christian here too. Though I remember at the end when her gay boyfriend appears and the cool Christian guy was like, hey, look, I mean, it's in the Bible. We know this is wrong. She's like, Come on. That was her response to that. But yeah, using Mandy Moore in this was a great parody too of how teen dramas like, say, Saved by the Bell would introduce a character that they're like, is he magic? Ooh, I don't know, played by somebody famous.
Or it would be like a homeless person or a disabled person just there for their condition to teach a better off person a lesson.
Yeah, it's called the wisdom from the gutter trope.
Oh, okay.
The one I remember the most is on Saved by the Bell, where he it was a Christmas episode, wasn't it? He dates a homeless girl.
I was thinking of the wheelchair one.
Well, there's the wheelchair one, but remember, it's at the mall.
Oh,
Zach goes into the bathroom and he sees the guy shaving in the bathroom, and then Zach says, "Hey, I think you left some change in the phone there." And Zach put a $20 bill in the phone so the guy could have it. That was what a friendly guy that Zach is.
I remember that because they built another set.
Yeah, that's right.
Like, it's not just one of the 3 rooms they have.
There's an episode of Just Shoot Me where Maya spends a night in the gutter. Not a gutter, the sewer. There's a guy down there who's like dispensing wisdom. And then it turns out he just read it off a wall of a brothel.
And that's what's so great here that Mandy Moore is that she points out how good she looks as a homeless person, which makes no sense. And I like how she stands out so much from when they draw other homeless people in this episode. They are homeless people who do not look good, like as you wouldn't if you don't have a home. I'm not blaming them for that, but yeah. So I like the realistic homeless people all later surrounding movie star good looks, except a little dingier Mandy Moore.
Oh, there's a character in I think it was Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. She lives in a van, but she does not look like she lives in a van. Her hair is like impeccably perfect.
But she looks like she didn't sleep too well the night before, though. She's
a little puffy. But yes, so the Act 1 ends with Joan of Arc vowing to ruin the Snowflake Day party that is happening at Cleopatra's house. By the way, Joan of Arc is living with Cleopatra because her house burned down in the previous episode, I think it was.
Yes.
Yeah.
The continuity error in that episode, she says that Cleo stuffs her bra, but when Cleo takes her bra off in other episodes, she clearly, those are not stuffed. Like,
the left boob is more important, we learn. But so Act 2 begins with perfecting the new invention.
Hey, why are you bleeding, dog?
Well, the knife portion seems to have sliced open my cheek. How about a sliding plastic sheath to cover up the blade when the fork portion is in use?
Okay, we're just gonna need a system of ball bearings to make the sheath slide.
But it'll need to be counter-stabilized. I'm thinking...
trigger assembly! Jinx!
Should we have a strap to hold down the meat while we cut it, or Velcro?
Velcro, definitely. And there's only one solution for the oscillating serrated edge. Coal power! Get out of my head! You get out of my head!
I gotta hand it to you, the foot pedal and the popsicle sticks really work. We're gonna be rich, Gandhi. I'm gonna be able to buy Cleo the best gift ever.
Now, as far as the name, I was thinking knife fork.
Blade forker.
Utensil.
Sir Slice and Spear.
Fight. Nork. Oh my God.
Fantastic.
Awesome. Come on, man. We rehearsed this. Sorry.
So the Nork is this very overcomplicated thing where you strap this giant coal-powered furnace on your back, and there's a foot pedal you work, and it's just sort of like a glorified turkey carver.
I don't like steampunk, but if anyone ever dragged me to a steampunk convention and I had to dress a part, I would make a Nork.
It is steampunk.
It really is. You can be like a Nork smith.
The Nork is so great because you might think like, oh, well, if the people have made a spork, why don't they combine the one other thing together? And the reason is because you don't put a knife in your mouth. That's why. And that should end it there. Once he cuts his cheek open, they should be like, well, this doesn't work.
Only for swimming across a river. That's when you put a knife in your mouth.
If you go to the Wikipedia article for spork, you'll see some crazy stuff. Like, there's like patents for spork-like inventions that go back as far as 1874. And there's an example from the early 20th century called an ice cream fork. And there's also a salad fork, which just looks like a spoon that was taken out of the mold too early before it was done setting. And there's a Japanese fork that looks like if a spork got pregnant. And actually, the Nork exists now, and it's spelled the exact same way. It's a half knife, half fork utensil. And it's officially tied in with the TV series Top Chef,
What?
So if you go to nork.net, you can see this.
Nork.net.
Yes.
Pull this up.
You know, I'm a bigger Spork fan because of the critic.
Like the edge it looks like a normal fork, except the edge is slightly beveled, so you can cut things better with it. But not sharp, not so sharp.
It still seems like it's going to cut my cheek open.
It's still dangerous, I think. Yeah, but yeah, you can see all the crazy buzzwords they use to describe it, which reminded me of this episode.
So you can purchase a Nork. It might be too late for the holidays. Actually, it is. But next year, just buy one now, wrap it up, and enjoy your family members.
By the time this episode airs, or gets released.
But next year, I'll be cutting up my sweet meats with that and not having to wait.
And my face. So we see a little bit.
Oh, this cheek flap, the way the cheek flap just moves.
That's why this reminded me of Ren and Stimpy. There's so much violence done to the characters. Lots of blood. I mean, it goes beyond Ren and Stimpy because this is for adults. Mm-hmm. So we get a lot of gore.
I haven't seen too much mouth trauma from cartoons at this point.
Because it hurts so much to look at.
Actually, Ren and Stimpy, one episode in particular was like the king of mouth trauma.
Oh,
Ren's toothache. Ren's toothache. Look it up,
dare
everybody.
You remind me of
I
that.
had to look that up.
Oh, God.
I think the worst part, though, is already past, is when Gandhi is in the kitchen with Abe, and Gandhi says, will you quit with me right now? And Abe is like, I'll give it serious consideration. And they just like,
but yeah,
there's like a pause, and then he chews one more time.
There's a reason why I didn't include that in the clip.
Yes.
But up next, we see a little bit of the Christmas special, Snowflake Day special in this world, where they actually do some stop motion animation. It's not super ambitious, but it's the story of Snowflake Day, in which Snowflake Jake is going to kill Santa Claus, Dradelstein, and King Kwanzaa because they all have exclusionary holidays. And it's not like Snowflake Day. And then we also learn about the traditional, all religions are equally valid, Snowflake Day Cabbage Patch, which is the traditional dance of Snowflake Day.
About the stop motion segment, that's by Adam Lane. And if you look up Sea Slugs, which is a short film he did in 1998, it's about slugs that are pirates. And I swear it uses the same pirate boat set as this.
Oh, wow. Well, I assume they didn't have that much money to throw around, so it was sort of like a nice little surprise in this episode to see a different kind of animation.
Yeah, I like that in the world. How do you show an animated special in an animated program? So you have to do a different medium of animation to make it work.
I love Dradelstein. By the way.
Yeah. And then them apologizing for their oppressive holidays as well. And you get to see that Snowflake Jake is nice. He's like, oh, well, I forgive you. You can all exist.
Only because they surrendered.
Yes, yeah.
They surrender and then they dance together.
But Joan is not enjoying the special, and Toots tries to teach her about the meaning of Snowflake Day.
I can't believe you guys watch that Snowflake Day crap.
Now, I may be blind, but I can still see you losing your Snowflake Day spirit, girl. You know Snowflake Jake might not shoot a spice cannonball at our party if you continue to act so ill-mannered.
Who cares? I'm not going to the stupid party anyway. But my presence will be felt. Oh yes. My presence will be felt.
But you have to come to my party. You're serving the crackers. Where else am I going to get a cracker girl at this late hour?
4th and Maple.
So when she says my presence will be felt, she's holding garlic gum. But then we find out later her pranks are actually much deadlier than that, like razor blades and the little wieners and also peeing in the punch.
Everyone just laughs that off. Like it's
not harmless at all. Okay, you guys. I gotta teach you how to do the celebratory Cabbage Patch dance. Are you ready for this?
Yes.
Yes.
You ready?
I can't knock over my coffee or the microphone though.
There are 2 songs in 1987 that teaches you how to do the Cabbage Patch dance.
Wow.
They're both called the Cabbage Patch.
Okay.
One was done by Gucci Crew 2, and one was done by Dr. Dre. So
1997? Or
1987.
Wow. Okay, so
Pretty
it was
old,
tying into the Cabbage Patch Kids craze of that era.
So Gucci Crew 2 says, okay, you ready for this? You put your 2 hands together.
Okay.
With your shoulders square.
Yeah.
And then you move him up and down like you just don't care.
Oh, I care about doing this right.
Stop caring.
I already screwed it up.
Okay, right now.
Okay.
Up and you put your right foot up.
Well, I'm sitting down.
And pull it back to the side. Why aren't you standing up and doing this? I told you I'm teaching you how to do the dance.
I only know the thing about putting your hand upon the hip and then doing the dip.
That's different.
Okay.
You put your right foot up and pull it back to the side. And now tell them, Miami, now ate it right.
And what?
Miami ain't it
Call
right?
them Miami, now ain't it right?
Okay.
Okay, I guess that's not a very good description of how to do this dance. Maybe Dr. Dre has a better
Now, he's a professional, medical professional. I want to know about this.
So these are your doctor's orders.
Okay. Take one Cabbage Patch.
You move your left shoulder up.
Okay.
And the right one down.
All right.
And if you want to get ill, try to turn it around.
That
you
would
have
hurt
to
me.
move your feet too. That's what I said. But they have to syncopate with the moves of your head.
Well, that
you got that?
But
you got all that?
That sounds more like Dr. Seuss than Dr. Dre.
But
notice how nowhere does it say you have to move your hands in a circle, which is like the basis of this dance.
Not a lot of things rhyme with circle though. So.
Oh, that's true.
But at the first one, it at least mentions putting your hands in some place. This is squaring your shoulders up. Like,
if you try to follow Dr. Dre's instructions, you just like move your shoulders up and down.
And
moving your feet. He doesn't give directions on how to move your feet. He just says move your feet.
It's like the instructions for doing the Mario. It's like
Actually,
swing your arms.
I think the descriptions for doing the Mario are more descriptive than these.
I mean, swing your arms from side to side. I can do that, and that's all you got to do.
Even doing the Bartman.
Oh yeah. Yeah, move your body back and forth and side to side. That's the only Bartman instructions I was given. So technically, like walking around is doing the Bartman.
Yeah, I learned how to Cabbage Patch from this show. Or also from from the Drew Carey show, because when Mark Cooper was his boss for one season, he taught him how to Cabbage Patch for some reason. I forget what, but
I learned it from a little animated GIF of Mega Man sprite doing.
Oh, I've seen that. Yeah. No one has ever Cabbage Patch non-comedically though. It's not a serious dance.
It is not. It's not like the Electric Slide. Now that if people take that very seriously.
But I had to do line dancing to that song, the Electric Slide, in school.
We learned square dancing. This has come up before. I don't know where, but we did have to take square dancing.
We did square dancing too.
Oh, yuck. I can't do-si-do anymore. I'm sorry. But throughout this episode, we learned, in previous episodes, I think it was established that JFK has a recording studio for some reason, because he's the funniest character to hear singing. And here is a commercial for all the holiday hits for Snowflake Day.
This music sure is putting me in the mood.
Of course it is. It's JFK sings the Snowflake Day hits.
Away in a taco, no spice for my lamb. Snowflake, 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 I made you out of snow. Jerky balls, jerky balls, jerky beef jerky. Jerky balls, tasty balls, balls of meat, jerked so sweet. It's a Jeff Foxworthy redneck snowflake day.
More brandy, dear?
No thanks. I'm pregnant.
So I just like how all the Snowflake Day songs are just appropriated from Christmas and Hanukkah, but also there's Jerky Balls 1 and Jerky Balls 2, and Jerky Balls 2 is more sincere. I love jerk, so sweet.
So sweet. JFK's voice is so well done. It's basically a Kennedy impression turned up to 11.
Yeah, everything.
Far more than Quimby on Simpsons, for example.
Yes.
And then when he wants to point out the innuendo, he's like, and by this, I mean that. He just screams it at the end.
And you know what? He's used pretty sparingly throughout the series, aside from, Litter Kills, literally, where he's like the star. But I think that's good because you never get sick of his voice, and his voice is so funny. Just hearing it makes me laugh.
Yes.
By that, I mean my penis!
It's great. I love insulting the Kennedys, and he does it so well.
Forgot to wash my hands.
The dirtiest joke they saved for his last one of those, like, I didn't see that coming, and by that, I mean me!
Yeah, that's right. Oh, what a cliffhanger. We'll never know what happened.
I want that cliffhanger was so smart, because they could resume the show at any time. And if they brought it back in 2 years, I want Scudsworth to be 20 years older and everybody else to be the same. And they just got unfrozen now.
They'd be totally out of touch with current times.
Oh my God. They think it was still 2003. It'd be so funny.
You could kickstart the Nork now.
An episode about all the jokes they could do. God.
Imagine, yeah, social media.
I want a Patreon parody.
And the Jeff Foxworthy one is my favorite because there's no even music
no
to
music,
it. He's just stopping in place.
Jeff Foxworthy.
But I do have a list of all the songs, and the second to last one is the Boston Celtics fight song. Like, why is that thrown in there?
Oh, just because it's JFK.
Yeah, it's Boston.
And it's Celtics because it's said incorrectly if you're from Boston.
Yeah, you have to say it in the Boston way of Celtics.
I'm sorry.
That's why. Well, no, I remember in middle school there was like a Scottish student in class, and we'd all just say Celtics, and they're just like, it's Celtics, and I'm like, well, hey, I'm not the NBA here, buddy. You got to talk to them.
Yeah, all of his holiday songs are just Christmas carols, but the titles are spice-based or meat-based.
I mean, all this meat holiday, well, it's not good for pescatarians like Bob here.
I think Snowflake Day would have more like soy and mushroom protein products for me in the future.
Actually, that's why it's not a Snowflake Day. You're forced to eat all these meats. That's not for soy boys who like it now.
I wonder if Gandhi is a vegetarian in this show.
Oh, I don't think so.
No, I don't think so.
Is there a scene where he's eating meat?
Boy, I'd have to go back through the series.
I mean, he's talking about
likes
sweet
spices.
meats here.
Yeah.
Not necessarily meat, though.
He does want the spices. Someone let us know out there in the comments. Does Gandhi eat meat in the series?
Also, that I like when the guy says the name of JFK's thing and adds his I had some ers and ahs in there. Why are you going so fast?
So
every time I see any kind of platter on a menu, I think
Potty
of JFK. Potty platter.
So, by the way, my grandma talked like that, which is why I think this is very funny. It's all very funny. Rhode Island and Boston accents are great. But so Gandhi and Lincoln are both at the mall. They see this commercial for the JFK's album. They're like, yes, marketing for the Nork. So they put on their own little live demo of the Nork in which Abe plays a bunch of different characters. Here's the end part of it.
Ma'am, have you ever tried a Nork?
A what?
Nork.
Who's there?
A Nork. Half knife, half fork.
That would cut my silverware budget in half.
Not to mention the toughest beef brisket.
I can walk again. I say, let us all purchase this miracle.
I agree with the dandy.
There seems to be a lot of buzz about it.
Quite a unit.
Why, even a child can use it. Come here, giant boy. Just pump the gas valve with your foot there, pull out the choke, and like magic, the Nork begins to...
Oh, I think it hit an artery! Oh, God, it's inside me now!
Great screaming and great.
Oh, that trilling off at the end. I never really noticed that before.
Yeah, and that's all off screen. Just blood is coming in from off screen and hitting Gandhi. I do like it's inside me now.
And in the French version, he doesn't talk at all. It's just screams of agony, which somehow makes it funnier.
I like it's a joke I've seen before, but characters that are in pain being too specific about what's happening to them.
I love it's inside me now.
Yeah.
Oh God, just his screaming and his acting beforehand too of like, I can walk again. Like there's no reason you can walk again.
When he says a what? I always quote that.
Nork. Oh God. So, and then it somehow is working in a mall, them doing a classic medicine show, like the Traveling Medicine Man show too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, God, that's all. I mean, it's funny writing, but amazing animation on the blood just flying off screen and all his designs, and then Will Forte just owning every second of dialogue.
So it sounds like he blew out his voice at the end there.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
like, oh.
He gave it his all. He gives you everything. Nothing is left of Will Forte when you hire him to act.
So back at Cleopatra's house, Joan of Arc is putting itching powder into all the eye patches, the Snowflake Day eye patches. She refuses to do the Cabbage Patch with Toots and runs away from home, and Mandy Moore notices she's losing the Snowflake Day spirit. Although now, in retrospect, you realize that Mandy Moore is just attempting to rob her or like scoping out her house.
Scoping the place out,
So it gives new meaning to scenes like this.
But sure as shooting, she's lost it.
Sure as shooting is the catchphrase about losing or gaining your holiday spirit.
Also, the ill-mannered list. That's a pretty good. They just always say ill-mannered. That's the official name of it. It's not just a descriptor.
Yeah, I like how they're trying not to be Christmas, but everything is clearly Christmas-based. erased.
Yes, yeah. They did erase all other holidays. They took no signifiers from Kwanzaa or Hanukkah. They only did it for the Christmas thing.
Actually, in Cleo's house, there is a snowflake kind of menorah-looking thing.
I missed that.
Candles.
Check out the Rugrats special we did. Learn all about the menorah, and that's it.
You'll learn so
It's
much.
actually not a menorah that they liked.
Oh, it's something else?
Yeah, I read it in the comments.
Oh, you're right. Yeah. That cartoon told me it was menorah.
Yeah.
That's not fair.
I thought it was a menorah. That was news to me.
Blame Klasky Chupo, guys.
Yes.
It's not my fault.
Not us.
The menorah has like 8 candles, and what they light for Hanukkah has 9 candles, I think.
I see.
Or something like that. There's like a center candle.
Well, the last one's for good luck, right? I don't know. So Mandy Moore confronts Joan of Arc about losing the spirit.
Hello, Joan.
Oh, it's you. That sexy dumpster teen.
I know you're running away from home after sabotaging Cleo's party.
It's just that I hate her, and she's dating the boy I love, and I have to live with her because me and Toot's house burned down, and I hate her. Wait, how did you know that?
I can see it in your heart. Joan, your family misses you. They're worried about you.
Johnny! Come back home, girl. I knew you'd come back. That's a good Johnny. Ow! It's all right. I'm just happy you home.
So another good Mr. Magoo style joke.
It's so good.
So for the last act of this episode, Toots thinks that Joan came back and is now trying to eat him, but it's actually a wildcat.
And that he's fine with it, except she's going a little too far at some points. He's like, look, you got to keep... And no one corrects him. Nobody tells him it's not Joni, but a wildcat.
Well, he feel bad.
He also at one point thinks she's a basketball.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe not the most sensitive jokes about the blind, but they are a very old kind of joke.
I like it in that way of it being so corny, so that in a lot of these cases it's these corny jokes taken to such an extreme. Same with like how the homeless person talks about being homeless or homed.
Yes,
like
and he has no eyes. Like at one point he pulls his glasses down, just like 2 holes in his head.
That's right. Yeah.
Oh God, yeah.
It reminds me.
This whole series is kind of like a love letter, not just to angsty teen series, but also cartoons in general.
Yeah. Oh, the angsty teen stuff, we didn't even talk about how they really do make a love triangle work on this show.
Yeah.
Like they have constant jokes about it, but you actually do kind of feel bad for Joan and all the feelings she has for Abe that are ignored in every moment of the show.
And there are so many scenes where Abe is just being a huge dick to her without him realizing it.
Yes, yeah.
I love how like direct she is to him too sometimes. Like sometimes she'd just be like, Abe, I want you. And he's just like way too dumb to catch on.
Yes, yeah. The clip package they do in the last episode where he's like, did you know Joan has feelings for me? And just all the Abes, including Abe.
I think like Abe's asymmetrical eyes make him look even more oblivious. Just like the way his eyes are off center.
Yes.
And he's got like a really dumb look on his face. Yeah.
And it's like little.
He's like a Picasso painting.
Yeah.
And it's kind of goatee. It's like a Maynard G. Krebs goatee instead of the classic Lincoln beard.
He's not full Lincoln yet. So they're out $20,000, Abe and Gandhi. So Abe has to make Cleo something from his heart. There's a nice little montage. Yeah. We see the raised hands. Like the raised hands is like a very good stock clone high pose. Just like 2 hands just awkwardly coming up from the bottom of the frame. I love it.
I see that used as an avatar a lot. Like I used to have a live journal icon of like a bunch of characters doing that too.
Oh yeah, I was telling you that after I watched this show, so many something awful avatars from 15 years ago made sense to me. I'm like, that's what that is.
That Peanut Man was from this show.
Exactly, the Peanut Man.
Yeah, I had a ton of LJ icons. And I want to say when Abe is throwing away the Nork in the dumpster, there's a dolphin sound that comes out of there.
Yeah, the dolphin sound.
Because every episode of Clone High has at least one dolphin in it somewhere. I'm not sure what the significance is. It's just like a weird running gag that they have.
They just like putting a dolphin sound. Like the dolphin will not often be on the screen, or it will be like, why was there a dolphin sound there? But I think that's a running joke where there is one dolphin sound in every episode.
Her bad tattoo could be anything in the sleep episode.
Yeah,
but it's a dolphin. And same with the final dolphin I just saw. I had forgotten he's just a member of the band.
That's right. right. Yeah.
Well, they had so many, like, it was a VCR show too. I'd say even more so than The Simpsons.
Especially the drug episode has a lot of things where you're supposed to freeze the frame to see the subliminal messages.
Yeah.
Did you catch
Scudworth is your favorite character.
Yeah.
That's not why he's my favorite, by the way. Didn't work on me, I think.
And in the last episode, when Joan pulls up the blanket to cover her boobs when they come in, it says "nice try" in the place of her nipples, in case you were pausing it to try to see some nipples there. It's that kind of effort, they didn't have to put that in there. It was for people who watched it 8 million times, which I think made it a more rewatchable show for sure.
Mm-hmm. And Abe is making a nice little booklet in the shape of her silhouette. We'll find out what that is later. But first, Mandy Moore takes Joan back to her burned down house to find out there's a real homeless hoedown happening inside.
So you find the Snowflake Day spirit when you hang out with the homeless?
Yes and no. More like you find it when you hang out with your friends, be they homeless or homed.
My goodness, it's true. I've abandoned my family and friends. I've slashed their tires and urinated in their punch. I realize now, I've lost the Snowflake Day spirit. Sure as shooting, I've lost it.
I also love the line of like, Toots told me not to let homeless people show me things.
That's right.
When Abe is making his gift for Cleo, the song playing is All You Have to Do Is Let Me Know by James Stewart. You could hear it for free on its Bandcamp. It's a nice song. And the part where he's blowing the glitter and it goes right back in his eyes. I feel bad from that point because, like, not only is his mouth getting traumatized, so is his eyes.
Eye trauma too, yeah.
And I have to say, I really hate glitter, and whenever I have to pick out a holiday card, I try my best to avoid it, but it's everywhere. They use it on everything.
You'll never be free of glitter the second you let it into your life.
When I went to Disney California Adventure, I saw the Frozen live show. I gotta say, it was really good.
Oh, really?
And I've never seen Frozen. It's just like a bunch of people doing a truncated version of Frozen. But when I sat down on my seat, there was some glitter. And the entire time I was like, are they going to shoot glitter at me? When is the glitter coming? I was so worried about glitter. But yeah, go see the Frozen live show. There will not be glitter or t-shirt cannons.
You got to experience Frozen in 30 minutes instead of
it was an hour, minutes, but it was good.
Telling the listeners now, if I ever send you a greeting card covered in glitter, that means I hate you.
Oh, no.
That's like the fatwa.
I don't want to get that on Snowflake Day.
So back at the party, we're seeing all the damage that Joan's traps are doing on people. There's laxatives in the lamb tacos. There's lamb's blood above the door. Lots of lamb-based pranks.
Yeah, all of her pranks go so far, and no one like charges her with crimes at all.
And
she urinates in the punch.
Yeah, and the Wildcat is chewing through Toots' Achilles tendon, which is his Achilles heel. The same party, we're seeing Abe give Cleo his gift, which is a coupon book.
So this acting on Will Forte is my favorite in the whole episode.
I love it. The Nork!
Oh, God.
This
lies.
Oh, yeah. So, like, definitely in Ren and Stimpy, I see a lot of Ren and Stimpy, and when he says lies, and his face is shaking. Okay, let's hear it all.
Now, I'm not sure if you deserve this, but here.
A Nork? A Nork!
I got it at the Sharper Image.
Lies! You just pulled this out of the garbage! This dump gift had absolutely no thought or meaning!
Well, you didn't say what you wanted. I clearly stated that I wanted something that was A, expensive, B, bought, and C, not lovingly handcrafted.
I see. I guess you're not the person I thought you were. I'm going to get some bite-sized wieners now.
Here we go.
Bite-sized wieners! Oh, God! Oh, who put razor blades in these? Why does my mouth keep getting cut up? Why?
Boy, Joan wants to make out with that mouth. It's a bad idea.
She didn't think of that.
Yeah.
God, just his lie. Just
so good. I also like Cleo's voice acting there too.
Yeah.
When she says "not lovingly handcrafted," I quote that line all the time, especially around this time of year. So with coupon books, like I know that's an all too common idea, like as a handmade gift ideas for children. Like I think I've seen it in every single activity book.
Oh yeah.
Have you ever made something like that for your parent?
I think I did, maybe once.
If I did, I would have expected well, you can't actually cash these. These are not.
I don't think my parents redeemed them, but I was a good
exactly.
boy.
Yeah, I made it once too, and they were never redeemed.
Well, on Cleo's side, I do have to say he should want to snuggle with her anytime. So it's I can get you to snuggle anytime I want. This is meaningless to me.
I think I've heard of couples doing this for each other, but also if you're an adult and you care about somebody, you should be doing these things without some sort of currency needed.
Yeah.
It's just a very juvenile idea because Abe is a giant man-child, basically.
He's never dated before. This is his first girlfriend. Well,
that's true.
Meanwhile, Cleo's been around the block a few times, but she is correct that she was very clear with him of what she wanted. But meanwhile, that she did just this dump gift, you get to see him throw away the Nork. She just fished it out of the gutter. She just handed him garbage and then lied too. Cleo is more wrong here. Cleo in general is a bad person in this show. And she constantly uses Abe at all times.
Abe is only bad because he has no emotional intelligence to read anyone.
And the sharper image, I didn't know what this was, so I finally looked it up. And my God, it's filled with wacky inventions.
Oh yeah, that's
way too expensive.
That's where Bart gets his belt in The Simpsons.
Yeah.
Oh really? Oh, I don't remember that.
It's a sharper
I remember
image,
the episode.
Yeah, it's a sharper image style place.
Is that one of the stores where Marge is I can't afford to shop anywhere with a philosophy?
Oh no, it's the Rainforest Cafe.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I found 3 useless things right off the bat when I went to the website. I found this NFL hover helmet for $120. It's just a tiny football helmet that hovers midair with an electromagnetic base. A boardless skateboard. You put your feet through these rings with nothing connecting them together, and you glide around on the ground. That's $100.
Then you paralyze yourself.
Yeah, it looks dangerous. Yeah, and my favorite was a professional fat reduction system, which is just a belt made of red LED lights that you're supposed to put around your waist, and it shines light into your pores, which supposedly melts your fat cells. And that's for a low price of $400.
A placebo belt.
Yes.
Just what I wanted.
Just a light belt.
You'll be in so much pain from those hot lights you won't want to eat food.
Well, they're LED.
Oh, okay.
So you won't get burned.
God, sharper. It does the Nork does look like a stupidly expensive thing you'd buy at the sharper image. That is true. Or
Sky Mall.
Yeah. But God, this is one of multiple times in the show where Abe and Cleo would break up, but Joan accidentally brings them back together.
Oh, that's right.
This would have ended their relationship when he's you're not the person I thought you were. That should be the end, but by giving them the snowflake spirit again, Joan puts them back together once more.
And we're going towards the end of the series. There's only 2 episodes left after this, so yeah. But
she cares about Abe, and she sees that he's happy with Cleo, so she pretty much gives up on breaking them apart every time every time she tries to. From the very beginning of the series, she's had a chance to put a wedge between them, and she decides not to. She decides not to because she cares for him too much.
Yeah.
She's too nice. I'm glad that this character is a woman in the series. It could easily be a dude, and there are too many nice guy stories,
Nice girl trope.
Yeah.
Which isn't really a trope.
It should be. So Joan returns with all of her homeless friends. I like the line from Toots. It's I thought you were dead. I shot you for biting me so much.
Yeah, he had it skinned and he's wearing it around his shoulders.
Which he thinks he did to Joan.
Yeah.
He thinks he murdered her and skinned her.
Well, she was softer than normal, but it's here we learn the moral of Snowflake Day.
Everyone, I've got something really important to say. Don't drink the punch. These derelicts taught me something today. Snowflake Day is not about greediness or ruining parties. It's about being with friends and family and realizing what you've got.
So that's what this is. This punch is amazing.
You know what, Abe? It doesn't matter that you got me a crappy present. I'm happy to have you as a backup gift. And I'll give you your backup present later.
You mean?
That's right. I'm gonna show you my left boob.
Oh, Pancho, finally we will meet.
Now, new friends and old, let us unite and celebrate Snowflake Day. Everyone, Cabbage Patch!
So Joan finally Cabbage Patches, showing that she really is embracing Snowflake Day.
I like how Cleo has to hang sex over him until the series finale. And so the ways that she piecemeal gives him any kind of sexual gratification is so funny is this the first boob she's shown him, or has he seen the right but hasn't seen the left?
Well, we find out about first and a half base, which is under the shirt over the bra.
Oh, yes. Yeah. First and a half base.
She's clearly had relations with a bunch of guys before, so I wonder why she's being so stingy with Abe here.
I mean, to use him more, I guess.
Get that expensive gift out of him. And also, he's so sweet.
Yes.
And innocent.
He doesn't do much for her, though.
No, well, she finally is ready to give it up at prom. It's so she doesn't hold it over him forever. But I guess, with prom coming up, they have multiple proms in this show, too. Unlike Gandhi, who's into dry humping, she wants to go all the way eventually.
Nicole Sullivan also voices Marie Curie.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Love interest.
Who was a big weird mutant.
Yes.
I love her design so much.
God, her just strange underbite and her chest thing, and also that it's in the finale too, the understated joke of you're in my heart, and he puts it on her stomach.
Yeah.
But she doesn't say that's where my heart is. It's just you take a beat to think about it. and also the JFK asides and just the background, this punch is amazing.
A little bit of him goes a long way, and I like that they use him sparingly. But so everyone thinks they hear Snowflake Jake's cannonballs. It's actually the van of the homeless people who are there to rob them. So here's the finale of Snowflake Day.
Hawk! Snowflake Jake is nigh!
I can hear his cannonballs are coming. He is real. He is real.
Step away from the target or you'll get hit. Everyone into the basement. Hurry it up now. In you go.
To the basement. Snowflake
I
Jake.
wish for curry.
Look, everyone. It's snowing outside.
Hey, where'd that hot homeless chick who may or may not have been Mandy Moore go?
I don't
Maybe
know.
she had a gift.
She's disappeared.
So she wasn't Mandy Moore. She was an angel. An angel all along. Well, jolly Snowflake Day, Angel. Jolly Snowflake Day, everyone!
And it was all just a long con to rob Cleopatra's house, which is, I guess that worked out for Joan of Arc.
Yeah, I mean, it's not her stuff. She already lost all her stuff. Also that Gandhi's reaction, he is real, he is real. It implies in the entire episode Gandhi was doubting the existence of Snowflake Jake, and now he's like, it becomes Virginia, there is a Santa Claus, but just for Gandhi for 2 seconds.
Like Abe, he is also a giant man-child.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, he suffers from
little
ADD.
man-child.
I forgive him for that.
Oh, right, he does have that. But yeah, that was Snowflake Day. Again, if you live in America, all of this is available on Amazon for $9, and it's great. Get it, watch
Totally
it.
worth it.
Maybe if you buy it, they will make more. Who knows? I mean, I assume no more will ever be made, but I don't know. I mean, everything is coming back, and by the time the next decade rolls around, we'll be having 2000s nostalgia, and who knows?
Every interview Lord and Miller give with dorks like me, they are asked, will you bring back Clone High? And they always say, we want to do it. They even joked of, we're getting this, we want to be this successful so we can make Clone High. That's the end goal of this. Though, like we said at the beginning, it has so many owners, it's really complicated to bring it back. And I would think that they are getting bigger and better offers. If I was them and I wanted to do a second season of Clone High, but I was also offered a whole lot of money to make a Spider-Man movie, probably would do Spider-Man instead of...
Don't they have enough money?
There's never enough.
That's true.
I want to throw them all my money because they're brilliant and they deserve it.
Just a 90-minute special just to bring it back.
Yeah, Adult Swim does that now.
Yeah. Or just, a 20-minute new episode of Harvey Birdman. That was fine by me. I'd go for that. I mean, you'd need another season to do more funny, great Clone High jokes. You need a full season to have the personal drama build over it. And I would guess their senior year in Clone High, though, they really did write themselves into a corner with the shadowy figures and that giant conspiracy. There's ways out of all that stuff for sure. And they were thinking of a second season possibly. So perhaps when they get unfrozen, they just go they all get killed by Scudsworth and Scudsworth just runs it all.
But hey, there's gotta be an undergrads movie.
Oh, no.
I know. Boo.
Started.
You really, okay, that really brought me down.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The only
you lost Snowflake Day spirit.
I do love this episode. It's so funny, so many funny moments. The only downside I have about us doing this one as opposed to other ones, you do see him, but there's no Butlertron lines, which all the Butlertron.
Oh, that's true.
Wesley.
Also a great voice.
He can talk like this.
And his battle with Scangrade. I was sure Scangrade was Phil Lamar, but he's one of the writers on the show, Judah Miller.
Okay.
Which is like infidel. And the way he just spins around. God.
And if you read my comic Sparks, there's a robot litter box character in there, and he's partially based on Mr. Butlertron.
When you read his dialogue out loud, do you read it like Mr. Butlertron?
Yes, I do. It's exactly the Mr. B voice.
Well, now that we're talking,
part Bender, part Mr. B, and part a character from Ace Attorney who is a spoiler. But
I see.
Yeah.
Well, they didn't get Mr. Belvedere in Canada. Too racy. He sat on his own balls.
He did.
I used to watch Mr. Belvedere when I was a little kid.
Every Butlertron Scudsworth scene is so great. He's like, Mr. B. Just his being upset with Mr. B so much.
They have a fun relationship. But Nina, you mentioned Sparks. We're at the end of the show. Please promote all of your stuff. You're working on so much great stuff for Fangamer. You've got books and prints and all kinds of stuff happening.
Yep, you can find me on Twitter at Space Coyote. That's Space Coyote with an L instead of an E at the end. My website is spacecoyote.com or ninamatsumoto.com. And if you go to fangamer.com, go to the collections tab, click on By Artist, and click on Space Coyote. You can see all the stuff I do there. Most recently, I released some new merch for Undertale, like a Christmas-themed mug, and a Knowing Dog toque, that's a beanie for you Americans, and a flowery shirt. And I also did artwork for the Shantae Game Boy Color vinyl record.
Cool.
It looks really good. I'm a big fan of your new Bomberman shirt, by the way.
Oh, yeah. I also did Capcom stuff and Konami stuff. So Bomberman, Sunset Riders, and more to come there, too. And if you also go to shop.spacecoyote.com, you can see my original prints and an enamel pin that I made. I'm moving right now. It's costing me a lot of money. So if you want to throw some money my way, please buy some of my stuff.
Yes, please support Nina and all of her endeavors.
I don't have a Patreon.
It's a
perfect. That's where you screwed up, number one.
Those all sound like perfect Snowflake Daycare satchel exchanges.
And they're expensive store-bought gifts.
Yes.
Perfect for all of your family members. Actually,
you guys have a Patreon. You're millionaires.
Oh, yeah.
All of our things are lovingly handcrafted, though, by us. As for us, we are part of the Talking Simpsons Network. If you want to support the show and get a lot of bonus episodes, go to patreon.com/TalkingSimpsons. If you sign up at the $5 level, you get every episode of this podcast and Talking Simpsons a week ahead of time and ad-free. And also, as I mentioned before, so many bonus podcast exclusive series, interviews, a ton of stuff that we do that's extra just for subscribers to the Patreon. So if you want to sign up for $5, you'll get access to most of it. And Henry will tell you about our newest podcast available at the $10 tier.
Yes, if you're a What a Cartoon fan, you're going to want to listen to our monthly movie podcast where me and Bob go through a different animated film in the same way we do What a Cartoon. We just started. We did Batman, Mask of the Phantasm in November, December's Kiki's Delivery Service, the Hayao Miyazaki classic, and who knows what January shall bring. We love doing those, and you can hear those if you upgrade to the $10 a month Patreon tier, where you also get access to all of our previous videos we did that were the old premiums on there, so you could watch me and Bob watch the original Simpsons shorts.
Mm-hmm. So all of our patrons at the $5 or more level can vote on what movies we actually do for that movie podcast, so you guys have a say in that. But also, any amount you can donate is appreciated. But if you sign up at the $5 level or above, you get a nice little code you can drop into whatever you use to listen to podcasts, and that will let you listen to our bonus podcast alongside of your normal podcast. So again, that is patreon.com/TalkingSimpsons. Please check it out if you want to support the show and get so many more bonus podcasts on top of that. As for me, I am on Twitter as Bob Servo. I'm Bob Mackey, by the way, and my other podcast is Retronauts. It's a classic gaming podcast every Monday and occasionally Friday. Go to retronauts.com or look for Retronauts in your podcast machine. It's a classic gaming podcast. We've been doing it for a long time, so please check it out. I think you'll like it if you like video games. Henry, how about you?
I've been Henry Gilbert, and you can follow me on Twitter at HENEREYG. You'll get updates about whenever we do new podcasts and new things go live on the Patreon, not to mention news about upcoming live shows like the one we're doing on January 16th for Talking Simpsons with special guests Allie Gertz and Julia Prescott from Everything's Coming Up Simpsons.
Gasp.
And you should, if you follow me on Twitter too, you'd be able to see the amazing poster for that show that Nina Matsumoto did for us, which you should really check out. Just go to the Patreon and look at Nina's art. That'll make you want to buy tickets, but just go and look and appreciate her art.
You can also buy that poster if you show up in person.
It's true.
Thanks for joining us, folks. We'll see you next week for the Rick and Morty episode Total Recall. We'll see you then.
Next week on a very special Clone High, Joan gets a makeover, Gandhi gets a makeover, Principal Scudworth gets a makeover, and old Abe stays the same. Lovable. Maybe I'll get a wax or something.